radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Morning. Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We're here with you until 10 a.m. Let's touch on those headlines this morning. Chelsea come back from 3 down to salvage a 4-4 draw at the Bridge in their Group H Champions League clash against Ajax. Liverpool are within touching distance of the last 16 as they beat Genk 2-1 at Anfield. Liverpool also face 2 games across 2 continents less than 24 hours apart next month, as possible date change for the Carabao Cup quarter-final against Villa is ruled out. Saracens vow to fight devastating ruling which sees them being docked 35 points and fined more than £5 million for an alleged salary cap breaches. Granit Xhaka has been stripped of the Arsenal captaincy. Aubameyang named as the new captain. I am joined here by the one, the only Mr. Patrick Christys. Good morning.
Morning, Rich. Happy Hump Day.
Indeed. We never celebrate Hump Day. Shall we celebrate it today?
Yeah, so Hump Day is Wednesday. Because
yes.
if we can get over this bit, then we're sorted.
Plain sailing.
Absolutely. Sail straight into the weekend.
We tend to get more energetic as the week goes on, I feel. Normally peaking on a Friday. I've got a feeling we're going to peak today, you know.
Really? Okay, good. Well, well done, listeners.
There you go.
You lucky people.
Exciting times ahead. And given that there's so much to talk about today, Chelsea we have to talk about, Saracens we have to talk about. Let's start with the football, if that's okay with you, because Chelsea, they were 3 down. Looked like it was going to be a pretty terrible night. And then within the space of, I would say, 7 seconds, Ajax lost 2 players and gave away a penalty. Probably the worst passage of play ever known in football for any team, I would say.
I think it was more devastating than when Eric Cantona kung fu kicked a Palace fan.
It's up there.
It is. It had more of a bearing on the outcome of the game.
That is true, although the repercussions with Cantona were slightly more severe.
Yeah.
For Manchester United, kind of cost them the title that season. But this, certainly, in terms of 7 seconds, what's the worst that could happen in 7 seconds?
Oh, mate, don't get me started on that.
Okay, that's a different story.
Yeah,
it's a different subject altogether, Patrick. I don't want to.
We'll talk about that in the ad break.
The dark days, we call them. Yeah, that's what we call them. But yes, and that did really give Chelsea the impetus then to fight back and almost had the winner. Obviously, goal disallowed, handball, fairly given, I guess, given the new rules and all that. But Chelsea, again, lots of positives to take.
Yeah,
conceding 4 at home isn't ideal, but lots of positives to take.
Loads of positives to take. Absolutely, they look like a proper outfit. They really do. I thought the way that they fought back was incredible. Tammy Abraham just looks lethal in front of goal, and Jorginho from the penalty spot as well. It doesn't look like he's ever going to miss.
No, he's got that lovely technique where he does a little pause just before he strikes it.
I call it the gazelle.
Oh,
so he runs up, and then kicks it. It's like, yeah.
But in that moment that he does the gazelle-like leap that you talk of, that's where he assesses what's going on. Where's the keeper going? And then he's so quick, he's thinking so quick. By the way, this season, he's brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, given last season how much stick he got, which was probably, I guess he was collateral damage for Sarri at the time. Yeah. But this season, everyone's loving him.
He was like my old dog, right? So what my mum used to do when she was really angry with me was that she'd go to the dog and say things like, "Oh gosh, you don't lie to mummy, do you? No, you don't. You don't do that." And it's obviously because she can't talk, she's a dog, but still. Whereas that was a bit like what the Chelsea fans were doing with Jorginho last year, where they hated Sarri, but because Jorginho was his man, they were like, "Oh, get Jorginho out of our club, Sarri. Get him out of the club, Sarri."
That's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
It did. And this season, now he's got this new lease of life. He's standing on his own 2 feet. Daddy's gone.
Bye.
Daddy's gone. Didn't even say bye.
Flown the nest, went out for milk, never came
back. The classic story.
Yeah,
it's like what happened to
me. Yes.
But it's crazy, really. And then all of a sudden, Jorginho standing on his own 2 feet. Chelsea fans love him.
Yes, they do. They do. No, well done. And Frank Lampard deserves a lot of credit. He said after the game that he never thought he didn't think he'd ever been part of a game quite like that. And Reece James became Chelsea's youngest ever Champions League goal scorer.
What a moment. Yeah, and do you know what? Lovely. By the way, he's one that, for all the talk about Tomori, all the talk about Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount, he's another one, you know. Certainly, I know that in the summer, literally all 24 Championship clubs wanted to sign him. Really? There's a couple of low-end Premier League clubs as well. So he's another one that I think when he gets his chance, he's going to be one of the best young players, best fullbacks out there. Very, very good. And for him to score yesterday, there you go, to score yesterday, kind of puts him on the map a bit. Great moment for him when they thought they'd won it. I mean, the place went crazy, and that's, I guess this is VAR though, right? As well, it's kind of, just steals away those fantastic moments.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. It's like if you had VAR on Christmas Day, you'd give the kid the present, he'd open it, he'd look at it and go, "Oh my gosh, this is the PS4." And then a massive hammer had just come down and just smash it. Just smash it right in front of his eyes.
Sorry, little Johnny, we just had confirmation that you were a bad boy
Yeah.
yesterday, so you will not be...
Oh, naughty list! Oh.
Oh, what are the chances? I'll take that back and I'll play with it. Let's talk a bit. Again, good win for Liverpool as well last night, beating Genk 2-1. We will touch on that in more detail. Genk, what a name. We're going to be speaking to lots of guests in regards to both of these games. I want to touch on this Saracen story.
Well, massively so, yeah.
I mean, I've read all the details this morning. So, Doc, 35 points, which could mean... I say it could mean relegation. Last year, the difference between first and fourth was 30 points. So, there's still an outside chance they can still make the top four and qualify for Europe. But it's very, very unlikely now. To me, it seems incredibly harsh. You probably know a little bit more on this than I do.
Look, I personally do think it is very harsh, actually. Let's just kind of deal with the facts of it. How the table currently would look if Saracens did get this 35-point deduction is that they would be rock bottom, 12th place on -26. They'd have a long way to go to catch Bath and Leicester, the two teams above them, both on 4 points. But essentially what's happened is that they have been found to have been breaching the ceiling cap on players' wages, right? And also engaging in various investment schemes. So the implication is that if you are one of the 9 players, for example, that England had in their World Cup squad that went to Japan that play for Saracens, say, let's take an Owen Farrell, for example, who will be their top earner, probably. So if his salary breaches the salary cap, the implication, therefore, is that he could have some of that money offset by taking part in an investment scheme, fronted up, of course, by the club and by the club's owner as well. Now, the key finding for this, for me, first and foremost, is that Nigel Ray, who's the owner, was adjudged to have not intentionally tried to mislead rugby bodies or just to intentionally try to fiddle the books, right? Now this guy is an incredibly wealthy man, and he is pumping a lot of money, far too much money in terms of him ever being able to see a profitable return into this club. You don't become a fabulously wealthy man, it's supposed to be worth about £315 million, by being an idiot, right? And by not reading the small print on things and stuff. So if they are saying that he never intentionally tried to mislead, the RFU, then surely then it's more their fault, isn't it? That they have such a complicated system. However, £5 million fine, 35-point deduction, and it is quite serious. There's loads to get stuck into for this, so we are going to be going into it throughout the show.
We are, because there's a couple of other clubs that breached this, and their fines effectively were half of the amount they went over, from what I could figure out. So it was as simple as that. They got fined half the amount for the amount they went over, similarly unintentional, and people just cracked on. No one really said anything. But you're right, we're going to go into this. We have got a couple of guests on the line later who we're going to be talking to about this. Granit Xhaka, not such a good morning for him this morning.
No, stripped to the Arsenal captaincy. It looks like he's going to be sold in January, doesn't it?
And Aubameyang, who, by the way, I want to make a point. I said that.
Just make him captain.
Yeah, I called Aubameyang.
Just because he's the best player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? And I know people were saying Hector Bellerin. We did have a guest on, but I just thought, actually, do you know what? Go with your best player.
Yeah, and I think it's always less of a risk than having a vegan as your captain at the end of the day, isn't it?
What's the issue with a vegan as
Well, just because they probably find about halfway through the game that the armband has got some kind of like animal product attached to it, used as a binding agent, and he'll have to tear it off and probably cry in the centre circle while he listens to, I don't know, Bob Dylan.
Yeah, or they lose that much weight that the armband just slips off, literally.
Just slips
every time.
Right off. He blends into the pitch because he's turned green.
Right, yeah.
And these are all risks that have to be accounted for when you have a vegan as captain.
When you're signing a vegan, it's
that's it. Well, they didn't sign a vegan. They signed Hector Bellerin, meat eater, and now he's transitioned into veganism.
Yeah. Did you have good knowledge of veganism?
Yeah, my girlfriend's made me do it now for a period of time, so I lied to her.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say, because the amount of time I've seen you with a sausage sandwich.
Just had a ham sandwich for breakfast, yeah. Or as I tell her, oats.
Ah, fantastic. That's great. You have such an open, honest relationship.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so pleased for you.
Well, no, I think in a relationship, why would you want to ruin it with honesty?
It's great advice.
What's the point?
People listening in, it's just, really imparting knowledge on how to have a successful career, successful relationship, successful physique as well, I must say.
Have a great day, kids.
There you go.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Wow. So lots more going on as well. Liverpool, we'll touch on them. They did beat Genk 2-1. Having a few... It's an interesting one as well. They've got these 2 games within 24 hours, which is just nuts. The amount of games that they've got in their calendar. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp touched on this, where effectively, I suppose a good thing for a Liverpool, Man City, these clubs, they do have 2 lineups that they can put out. So it's not too much for it. And by the way, there's a great chance they win both of these games. But it is insane that they got 2 games within 24 hours.
Yes, it is, but they do have the squad that could be able to do it. And also, like, this is one of the points that I've been making for a while now, which is that too many games, too much football. And I know it sounds a bit stupid saying this on Love Sport Radio, but there is a bit too much football because we end up in a situation like this, and it's only going to get worse as well, where teams have to field 2 separate teams, basically. So basically write a tournament off, pretty much, 24 hours apart. The manager won't be there, I would imagine. So,
if anyone can, Jurgen Klopp can.
Do you reckon Jurgen Klopp just literally appears in 2 places at once?
Do you know what I think he'll do? Is I think he'll create a hologram at one. So he'll be at one, and then we'll have like a hologram in the dugout going a bit crazy at the next one. I think it'd be quite, it's different. And I think that, it's out there. It might not happen, by the way. I don't like quote me on this.
No.
I mean, there's a chance it won't. But I've just got a feeling if anyone can, Jurgen Klopp will find a way.
The Jurgen Kloppogram.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it?
That would be good. Or maybe just FaceTime. Just have like a massive mobile phone.
He could be
in
on the
dugout.
VAR screen, couldn't he?
Yes, he could.
So he could block it when it goes like, decision, no penalty. He can just put his head in front of the no button, celebrate. Yeah, penalty. Yes, penalty. Yeah.
Sade is not a diver.
He's not a diver.
But they did have a good win last night. They are looking like they're going to make the last.
Do you reckon what he'll do is they'll play the first game and then he'll go, okay, everyone, Tuzzy Chopper! And then they all get on the helicopter and they fly to the next game.
If anyone can, Jurgen can. I think that could become a thing.
If anyone can, Jurgen can. I like that.
Oh, nice. Right, look, we're going to be talking some business next. There is a lot to get stuck into today. So do stay with us.
Love Sport.
Don't get caught out in the great energy price hike as large firms look to charge you more. If you want to save money on your energy bills, it's not too late to see what's on the market. With rising gas and electricity bills, don't get caught out wasting your money on expensive tariffs. A Spokesman Said will show you the very best value deals available. Check out aspokesmansaid.com and you could be using your savings to put towards a well-earned holiday.
With aspokesmansaid.com, fighting for you, saving you money.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger, and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area. Drink some strong coffee, and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
Right, cheers.
Think. Don't drive tired.
Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus a stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. It is business.
It's business. It's business time. I know what you're trying to say.
You're trying to say it's time for business.
It's business time.
It is business time. That means one thing. That man, Mr. Chris Bailey, founder of financialorbit.com, is on the line. Ow. Morning, Chris.
Good morning. You know, when you said business initially, there was sort of gravitas. It was sort of Radio 4-esque, and it just descended then, didn't it?
Really?
Oh, yeah.
It does every day.
Went downhill
It's
fast.
getting worse by the day. Right, let's crack on, because there's lots going on in the business world. Boots owner going private.
Well, yeah, absolutely. We all think Boots is some cuddly organisation, made in Nottingham and all of that, but it's gone through quite a lot of changes in the last 10 or 15 years. It got taken private, taken over by an American company or merged with an American company. It's listed on the US stock market, but might be leaving there because something very complex called a private equity transaction, a leveraged buyout, which basically is people with too much money thinking they can make even more money by doing something very clever with lots of money. So essentially that deal might be $70-odd billion. Who'd have thought it? Every time you pop into Boots for whatever, some deodorant or makeup or whatever takes your fancy, you're funding the lifestyle and riches of some very rich Americans.
How do we feel about this, Chris? How do you feel?
Well, I feel that this is just the way it rolls. It could be worse, right? There were 20 years ago, people thought that Boots was going to be another retail casualty. So they've done a rather good job as they merge with an American company and persist. And let's face it, a stalwart of the high street. I think ownership ultimately is just one of those things, really.
Yeah, indeed. The Boeing boss to give up bonus over accidents, and whistleblower exposes safety concerns over oxygen systems on 787s.
Crikey, that was a long intro.
Yeah.
All right, mate.
That's tough. I was really difficult to read.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we obviously know tragic incidences with two Boeing Max jets in the last year. But let me just run this one past you. The Boeing boss, he earned $1.3 million last year, which I think we'll all agree is a decent chunk of change. But he also got a very cool $13 million, or he was going to get a $13 million bonus, $13 million bonus. He's now going to pass on that, which I think is totally appropriate given a lot of the exposés and issues that have come out clearly around Boeing in the last few months post those crashes. So he is going to pass on that, which I think is good. The trouble is, though, he's getting a lot of hassle from these various American congressional committees, and quite rightly so. This issue with the oxygen problem is clearly a fundamental one still with the jet, which hasn't come back into service, and quite rightly so, because clearly they're still floundering around trying to work out how to fix it properly. So don't get on one of the jets. You can't at the moment, but don't if they come back into service until you feel totally satisfied that all these issues have been sorted. But I think it's good he's passing on his bonus. That's the absolute least he should do. Some have considered that actually he should be resigning, which, frankly, given all the issues coming out, is not a bad call.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, indeed. And last but not least, Facebook going through a rebrand.
Well, this is a big one. Now, what do you think if Facebook, which obviously has this sort of blue logo, which everyone's pretty familiar with, that with the word Facebook, they're now going to change it. Wait for it. They're going to put it in capital letters and slightly change the sort of the blue the kind of the blue tone they're going to be using. Now, obviously, that's probably a rebrand that's cost absolutely millions of dollars for someone, but they think it's a great step forward. To be fair, they've also fiddled around a bit with WhatsApp and Instagram. That's the plan, but the Facebook one's the big one. And all I say is, I want to be in that business where basically a rebrand can be putting something in capital letters and slightly changing the colour.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I remember, I think it was the University of Birmingham spent millions rebranding, and they had to choose between Birmingham University, the University of Birmingham, or University of Birmingham. And it took them absolutely ages, and eventually they settled for the University of Birmingham, and it cost them loads. I like this with Facebook, where somebody's had the balls, frankly, to stand in front of Mark Zuckerberg, pull down a sheet and go, behold, Facebook, capital letters, different shade of blue. Yeah, wow, you're welcome, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, this is innovative, Silicon Valley thinking par excellence, isn't it? I think Zuckerberg's got a young child, I believe. I reckon the young child might have done it. He might have just internalised it and got... But there you go. It's brilliant. Look out for that on all your Facebook whatevers in the upcoming weeks. But there you go. Fantastic news for them.
Fantastic indeed. Chris, as always, thank you. Hopefully we'll speak to you tomorrow.
That sounds planned. See you then.
Great stuff. Have a great day. Chris Bailey.
I love that.
Rebrand.
Just the idea that you've got like a big kind of, when you can like pull a cord and the two curtains come to one side and it's just got MySpace.
I know what you're thinking. This didn't work the first time round. However, I've got a feeling.
You are still paying me, right? Good.
The branding agency, do you know what it is?
A joke.
Do you think?
Oh, it's an absolute farce, mate.
I did meet with one once. It must have been 7 or 8 years ago. And you kind of go through this process of you give them all these ideas and you've got all these creatives writing down all this stuff. And then in the end, it kind of feels like a week later, you get sent a file with a lot of stuff on clip art.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, I'm pretty sure I saw that 15 years ago when I loaded up Word.
Yeah, that's exactly it, isn't it? It is just these rebrands as well. It's like, okay, all right, so today we're relaunching Odeon Cinemas. Brand spanking new relaunch now. Completely new. It's nothing like it was before. Welcome to the Odeon. Right, okay, excellent. Thank you very much for that. Cheers.
Oh dear, as much as we could talk about this all day, I feel like we should touch on a little bit of sport. I tell you what though, before we do that, before I swallow my words, I've got a question for you, Patrick.
Oh yeah, all right, okay, go on.
Are you throwing away your hard-earned money on expensive energy bills?
Why, yes I am, Rich.
Right, well there you go. You could keep the price down when turning the heating up. You could be saving hundreds by switching to a cheaper deal. As spokesmansaid.com compares the best deals on the market to find you the one that saves you the most cash. Find the cheapest energy tariffs for you. Go to a spokesmansaid.com and start saving today.
This is Love Sport.
Right, let's talk a bit of sport. Front pages or sport? I'm going to leave this to you.
No. Let's do Saracens. This is a massive story. This and one that is going to rumble on, frankly, for quite a good. It could actually be a number of years, to be honest. It's a bombshell report as Saracens are docked 35 points and fined £5 million for a salary cap breach. Sportsmail initially did the expose into this, and obviously now they end up potentially being relegated if, it's important to say, Saracens have appealed and therefore their points deduction has been suspended. However, if it was to be brought into force now, they would be rock bottom on -26, chasing Bath and Leicester in 11th and 10th respectively, both on 4 points. But look, I've put together a handy guide, Rich, for anyone who's maybe not aware of what's happened and has some serious questions about this.
Pray tell.
So I will run you through this. So what have Saracens actually been found guilty of? Right, an independent disciplinary panel has found that Saracens are guilty of breaching Premiership Rugby's salary cap, and that is why they've imposed £5.3 million fine and 35-point deduction as well. The PRL carried out a 7-month investigation before reaching the verdict yesterday. The full extent of the findings are confidential, but the ruling says Saracens failed to disclose payments to players in the seasons of 2016-17, 17-18, 18-19. In addition, the club is found to have exceeded the ceiling for payments to senior players in each of those 3 seasons. And the investigation found that club's owner Nigel Ray went into business with some of his players through investment companies set up in their names with him as a shareholder. He, for his part, says this is an investment, not a salary. Who was on the panel that decided all this? Well, it was a 5-day hearing in September and October, chaired by the Right Honourable Lord Dyson, who's been Master of the Rolls, the President of the Court of Appeal of England and Wales, and the Head of Civil Justice, until, of course, retiring in 2016. Just in terms of what the salary cap actually is, it's intended to limit what clubs can spend, so it stops a Manchester City-esque situation happening where you can hoard a load of talent, and pay through the nose for it. The cap is £7 million a year. However, clearly, Sarries have gone over that.
It's interesting. There's similarities, from what I understand, with the American model. So the American model with MLS, good example, they've all got a budget that they all have to stick within. And it's an interesting, but then each of them, they each have what's called a DP, designated player. And I think it's the same in rugby. They're allowed 2, I believe, that are allowed to be outside of the salary cap. In America, it's the same. They have 1, and that might be traded. They might get 2, 3. Like in LA's case, LA Galaxy, what ended up happening was they had 4 or 5. And really, the league kind of bent the rules in order to bring in the likes of Beckham, Ibrahimovic, and whoever else they bring in. I understand the similarities with this, where that cap is for the majority of the squad. You're allowed 2 DPs, effectively 2 players that are outside of that, from what I understand. It does just seem, bearing in mind a couple of other teams, Harlequins broke this recently, I believe, or certainly the last couple of years. Their fine was half of the amount they went over, and similarly, they weren't aware that they went over it.
Yeah, this is it, isn't it? And what you can never really show is what's going on inside someone's head, right? So Nigel Ray, worth £315 million. He was an early investor in Domino's Pizza. He's obviously a very wealthy man. We realistically just don't know whether or not he knew what he was doing was wrong. However, the panel did say, and this is in Saracens' statement, Saracens is pleased the panel acknowledged it did not deliberately attempt to breach the salary cap. And this is the thing, right? He may well have just felt, as a successful businessman, that he has found a little bit of a way round some of these rules. Now, look, I'm not being funny, but don't Amazon do that? Doesn't everyone do that with a bit of money? You know, what was in the Panama Papers? Well, some of the royal family, for example. I mean, you know, everyone's at it, aren't they, really, if you can do. So, look, we're going to get stuck into this throughout the show, of course, but I personally feel that 35 points and 5.3 million quid is a bit heavy.
Indeed. Well, let us know your thoughts. 0208 70 20 558. We're on YouTube as well. Just type in Love Sport Breakfast. Leave your comments there, or at Love Sport Radio on the socials.
This is Love Sport.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the mortgage, and the cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice, soon as I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Search Macmillan Money Worries.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
That's for breakfast. Me, Shirley, Patrick, Christys. What an hour we have coming up for you. Sam Limbert, Saracens pundit. He's going to be on. He is, because this is a big story. How will the Saracens ruling impact the fans on from the club? How will it impact the players as well? We'll be talking to him about that. We have Rich Hall, our regular Italian football expert, talking about Hellas Verona receiving a partial stadium ban after the racism incident involving Mario Balotelli. We'll also be talking some of the Champions League fixtures from last night. And, of course, Atalanta face Man City tonight. As always, you can get in touch. 0208 70 20 558 at Love Sport Radio on the socials. Or, of course, check us out on YouTube and leave comments there too. The time is 7 o'clock.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7, the official general election campaigning period has begun with some personal attacks. Boris Johnson's comparing the Labour leader to Russian dictator Joseph Stalin, accusing him of hating wealthy people. Jeremy Corbyn says the Tory leader treats politics like a game. A court in New Zealand's heard allegations a British backpacker was strangled by a man she met on Tinder. He denies murdering 22-year-old Grace Mullane from Essex, who went missing in Auckland in December. Her body was found days later. Reporter Jackson Williams is at the hearing and has been listening to part of the case laid out by prosecutors.
An examination of his phone revealed that he had conducted multiple Google searches in the very early hours of that morning, including a search of the location where Grace Mullane's body was found buried inside a suitcase roughly 1 week later.
More than 11,000 scientists are warning of untold suffering if we don't do more to tackle global warming. They've declared a climate emergency after studying more than 40 years of data. Petrol's become cheaper for a third month in a row. It was £1.26 a litre at the end of October, but the RSE claims retailers haven't been passing on recent falls in wholesale costs. Liverpool are on top of the Champions League group. The holders beat Genk 2-1 at Anfield and are now a point clear of second-place Napoli. But manager Jurgen Klopp says he's not getting carried away just yet.
Job done is the headline for the game, pretty much, and most important thing, of course. But group is not decided. We knew from the beginning it's a tough group, and so yes, now we are first in the table, but we only want to be first, or really want to be first after last match day.
Elsewhere, Chelsea went from 4-1 down to draw 4-4 with Ajax. Animal rights groups have welcomed the Queen's decision to switch to only wearing fake fur in her outfits. But the organisation, Peter, says the palace should go further and ban the real bearskin used to make headwear for the Queen's Guard. That's the latest. I'm Tim Jones.
This is Love Sport.
With the worst of winter just around the corner, you don't want to come home to a broken boiler. We're with you. So that's why with British Gas Home Care, we've got your boiler covered 365 days a year. We have thousands of engineers on hand to help get your boiler up and running again. And all from just 46p a day. Get a gift card worth up to £75 when you buy selected home care products online by the 27th of November. Search British Gas Home Care. Conditions apply. Prices vary by postcode.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We're here with you until 10. Let's touch on the top stories this morning. Chelsea come back from 3 down to salvage a 4-4 draw at the Bridge in their game against Ajax. Liverpool are within touching distance for the last 16 as they beat Genk 2-1 at Anfield. Liverpool also face 2 games across 2 continents less than 24 hours apart next month. Saracens vow to fight the devastating ruling which sees them being docked 35 points and fined more than £5 million for alleged salary cap breaches. Granit Xhaka stripped of the Arsenal captaincy. Aubameyang named as the new captain. And Son's red card has been rescinded. I'm here with Mr. Patrick Christys. We're here with you for 3 more glorious hours.
We are indeed. Now, coming up at 15:15, we've got Sam Limbert on the line, Saracens pundit. So he's going to be running you through basically everything that's happened with such pretty devastating blow, frankly, to Saracens. They've been fined 35 points and fined 5.3 million quid as well. This is in relation to breaching players' salary caps, etc. So let's talk about something else now. We've got that coming up at 7:15. We're going to go into a lot of detail with that with Sam Limbert.
We are indeed. And so we're going to talk a bit of football. Of course, there was a couple of big games, of many big games last night, in fact. There was a few in the EFL as well. But we'll talk Champions League. Chelsea, incredible comeback. The fact they were 4-1 down, come back to 4-all, nearly won it at 5-4. Want to touch on a few moments, actually. Felt sorry for Kepa. The cross to the far post, hit the post, hit his face, goes in the goal. One of the worst moments for a goalkeeper, that, especially where it looks bad, but it's not a mistake for me. It's just one of those freak goals, but it's kind of, what's the word? Humbling. Right. When you have a moment like that where, you know, it literally hits you square in the face and goes in the corner. It's
in front of millions of people. In
front of literally millions, worldwide.
Worldwide, global. You can watch that any time you like now on repeat.
Repeat. I mean, it's already had hundreds of thousands of views.
Yes,
hit the post, hit him square in the face.
Right in the face.
Right in the face.
He should have saved the first one as well, though, shouldn't he?
Do you think?
Yeah, the free kick came in. It was not a million miles away from the other one, was it? A free kick came in from the other side of the box and just went in at the near post.
No, they got the flicked header. I think it was Tammy Abrahams, of course, the own goal. No. Look, don't start to get on the goalkeepers.
Okay,
don't start
to get.
Saying. Actually, made a brilliant save for Ajax towards the end. Saved them the point in the end.
He looks good, actually.
Really good. Well, he had the link with Manchester United, of course, when we thought David De Gea might be off. And he did. He looked really good, really powerful. Great save. 89th minute. Really would have won it for Chelsea. Batshuayi with the effort down to the low bottom left-hand corner, wasn't it? But brilliant save. Do you know what? It's an entertaining game. I go back to those 7 seconds. 7 seconds of madness.
This is brilliant.
2 sendings off and a penalty all within a few seconds. The worst passenger play anyone's ever experienced. And in the end, credit to Ajax, when they're down to 10 men and it goes 4-all and there's still a little bit of the game left, they actually did well to hold on.
Yeah, they did. But yeah, they were disappointed though. But I think it speaks volumes about Frank Lampard, and also for me, the moment of the game was Kurt Zouma's run.
Yes.
So Kurt Zouma picked up the ball exactly where he should be, centre back for Chelsea, and then ran through the entire Ajax team, culminating in a double step over, which he knocks to one side on the edge of the Ajax box. Everyone's like, no. And then he smashes it into like row Z. Everyone's like, oh, okay.
Oh, there we
the
go.
camera cuts to Frank Lampard and he's just wetting himself laughing in the dugout. It's brilliant.
Well, let's hear from Mr. Frank Lampard.
The first goal, obviously, Tammy needs to clear. The second goal was poor defending from us. The third goal comes back and hits Kepa, I think, in the face or something, didn't it? Or whatever it does. So there was a freaky kind of nature to the first half. The biggest pleasure for me is the spirit that the whole stadium showed. The second half was electric from the way the players performed and the way the crowd reacted.
Yeah, what a night at the Bridge.
In the face.
I was watching Sky Sports News, obviously keeping in touch with all the games last night, and it was interesting. You had Frank Sinclair, who was reporting on this game, going absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
He looked like an excited kid as the game's going on. But that second half, it's one of the best second half in terms of entertainment that they'll have seen at the Bridge for a long time.
Massively so. Absolutely massively. And Rio Ferdinand actually dug out a lot of Chelsea fans, because apparently a lot of Chelsea fans left at 4-1.
Really?
And he was like, you can't do that. Can't leave this stadium at 4-1. It's what dreams are made of, this kind of stuff.
Through thick and thin.
Through thick and thin.
Like your girlfriend with you. Through thick and what you are now.
Portly.
Yeah. So Liverpool won last night as well. They won 2-1 against Genk. Let's hear from Jurgen Klopp.
Genk.
Oh, pretty much the only thing I'm not happy with is what we didn't do well. We didn't finish our situations off in the way we could have done. Obviously, we had a lot of chances, a lot of shots on target. Not too many shots on target, but a lot of finishes, big chances, if you want, really big chances, which we usually use, and we don't do that.
They're loving a win by a single goal at the moment, I'm noticing, with Liverpool. They've got that winning mentality, not necessarily in top gear, but I feel like they're doing enough, just enough, in the games they're playing.
Well, they are. It's not always been the free-flowing football that we've come to recognise from them. However, that said, Trent Alexander-Arnold has already managed to cross the ball into the box more than 150 times this season.
That's pretty impressive.
Which is nuts.
Well, he's got, arguably, for me, the best delivery, I'd say, at the moment.
I think so.
And from different...
He should work for Royal Mail.
I see what you've done there. So it's also from different areas of the pitch. That's what I like. He's got that one, even when he's close to the halfway line, where he can arc it in behind the back four, back five. Yeah, I love the way that he plays.
Yeah, so if you have got one of your wing-backs that is crossing the ball that many times, then clearly you are still creating loads of chances, and clearly you are still pressing forward. So I think that maybe the scorelines have been a little bit deceptive for Liverpool. I think they still are playing well, and it is going to get to that point in the season. And I think this normally happens, doesn't it? And it gets to a point in the season probably in a few weeks' time where we will just start seeing them spank teams.
Well, I feel they will. I mean, I'm just looking at some of their results now. Obviously, they beat Villa 2-1, Genk 2-1, Tottenham 2-1, drew with Man United, of course, Leicester 2-1. You know, you look, it's just a lot of single-goal wins. They did beat Newcastle 3-1, but then again, Chelsea 2-1, Sheffield United 1-0, which, look, they're great results. That's the point. They're picking up maximum points, but they're not actually... Whereas Man City will go and win 8-0, but then go and lose the next week, feels like Liverpool are just consistently grabbing those results.
What happened at Derby yesterday, mate?
Go on.
Wayne Rooney trained with them for the first time.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
Wayne Rooney trained with Derby yesterday for the very first time as he steps in to be a player coach in the new year. The former England captain was said to be in impressive shape as he joined his Rams teammates for a season at their Moor Farm base. Impressive shape.
I mean, that's quite vague.
Wow, I'm impressed that you can run as much as you do on a daily basis and still look like that. Wow, I'm impressed that you still manage to earn $100,000 a week while looking like a blancmange.
It's quite vague. I'll go with that. It's quite vague. If they'd have come out with some actual stats, he turned up today and his body fat was just 7%.
Yeah.
They don't come out with actual stats. Just impressive.
Yeah.
That is, wow.
Wow. He's broken records. He's definitely broken records. He stood on them.
There you go. Impressive. Derby, of course, going through, well, issues at the moment. It's a funny club, that, at the moment. I mean, Wayne Rooney, is this a good thing, him stepping in at this time where they've got...
It's never a good time, is it?
What do you mean?
When has everyone gone, right, now this is a great time for a bit of Wayne Rooney? Come on, mate.
Could he be captain?
You know what? Yeah, why not?
Speaking of captains, Granit Xhaka.
Oh, Granit Xhaka. Yeah, so he's off ski, isn't he?
Well, do you think he's got to leave now, surely?
Well, they stripped him of the captaincy. It took them a heck of a long time to do so, and I would have thought that he would be angling for a move. They left him out of the Europa League squad.
Yep.
To me, it looks as though quite possibly he will be off. Some interesting reports yesterday as well across a few newspapers that apparently Arsenal players are quite bemused with the manager as to why he isn't playing Ozil more.
Right.
Which I'm starting to wonder, actually. Is Emery the problem?
Well, this is it, where this is all played out pretty poorly, it has to be said. And I guess it'd be interesting to ask fans whether they would rather see Xhaka go or Emery go. Not that it is a decision between the two, but from what we understand, Emery was keen for Xhaka to come out instantly and apologise on the back of this. And he didn't. It took him, 4 days to put out? It wasn't an apology.
No.
It was, I'm sorry if you feel this way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the classic.
Yeah, which, I mean, if you word it well, it can be devastating.
I'm sorry you got so emotional about that.
Yes, classic. And I don't think the fans really appreciate that. And he obviously brought up some horrible things that are happening elsewhere, social media, etc., which is a separate matter and isn't nice, admittedly. But the point is, this particular incident, he hasn't really apologised, it feels. So I don't know, you look at it, is he going to be involved moving forward? Probably not. January, if they can get some money, which they will do, he's still captain of Switzerland, isn't he?
I think a lot of Arsenal fans would possibly say that it might be better to, instead of Granit Xhaka, just put a dainty little ribbon on a pig and put it out onto the pitch. Maybe some tiny little high-heeled boots, and like a party hat.
Right.
And just put it in the middle of the football pitch, just in front of the back four, actually, and just leave it there. And some of them might say that actually is an improvement on Granit Xhaka.
Okay,
some people would say that.
Some people. Let us know your thoughts, whether you think a pig with a ribbon would be better than Granit Xhaka. 0208 70 25 58 on the WhatsApp. You can get in touch on YouTube too. We got Martin Johnson on, this morning.
Well, yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah, of course I know that.
We got him on at 9:30 this morning. Martin Johnson, CBE, will be on at 9:30. We're going to be talking rugby next as well, of course. Sam Limbert, Saracens pundit. Big story. Just want to touch on this before we speak to Sam?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, Saracens have been fined 35 points and £5 million for breaching the salary cap rules. However, the report clearly stated that Saracens did not intentionally try to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. They are appealing this. It could mean that could well mean that they are relegated if they lose this appeal. And a lot of other clubs are actually pushing now for stronger sanctions, saying that they feel cheated, that this has been going on for a very long time, and that they've essentially been cost titles over this. There are calls for Saracens to be stripped of their titles. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But yeah, we're going to get stuck into that now with Sam Limbert.
We do. We're actually just speaking to Chris Jones, rugby writer for Evening Standard as well, at 8:15. So lots of rugby chat this morning. Lots of football chat too. 14 minutes past 7.
Love sport. Digital radio offers great sound quality and more stations than ever before. And we want to make sure that you get Love Sport on your digital radio. Just press the auto tune or auto scan button and Love Sport will appear on your menu. Love Sport on digital radio.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Tenna men. Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realize that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search 1U.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work. Even a quick look at a message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
Love Sport.
Lots more breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Now, of course, this Saracens news this morning is big news. We just touched on it there with Mr. Patrick Christys. Delighted to say we've got a special guest on the line to go through this with us. Sam Limbert, Saracens pundit, is on the line. Morning, Sam.
Good morning.
Morning. This is it's big news. Obviously, it's all over the back page of a couple of papers this morning. We were discussing it, myself and Patrick. Seems a bit harsh, unless maybe we haven't looked into it fully. What's your take on it?
Well, my take on it is that it's very harsh, and that's coming from a biased standpoint as a Saracens fan. But I think it looks incredibly harsh because it's just unprecedented in English club rugby. When we've seen other clubs kind of sneak over the salary cap before, the fine's normally been 50p for every pound they've gone over. So it's never been more than about, I think, £30,000. So for it to be 5 million and a 35-point deduction, it's just the scale of the penalty that's so big.
I made that point earlier on here, which is exactly that. It's been half of the amount of whatever it's been over. So, look, is this half of the amount of what it's been over, or is this way in advance of that?
I think it's way in advance of that. I think the problem is that it's kind of such a grey area that Saracens have kind of been in with the way Nigel Ray has kind of been investing in the players. And basically, he's always been an owner that, for him, actions speak louder than words. And if he says, as a club, they're going to look after the players, that's how he wants to run the club. He wants to look after the players. And if that means investing in businesses for them, investing in other ways that they can then be rewarded for what they're doing at the club, and also then set themselves up for life after rugby, he's going to do that. And I think because this is kind of slightly unprecedented in the way he's trying to reward his players and look after his players, that's where I think they almost don't quite know how to deal with it.
Okay, so is the issue really that they have just been paying players outright too much money, or that he has come up with what sounds, to be honest with you, like quite a novel way of investing in players and signing them up to businesses? For example, Owen Farrell, Faz Investments Limited, is co-owned by Nigel Ray. Maro Itoje is also in a similar thing. MN Property Solutions, that's Itoje's novel business idea. So is it that they've just overspent on players' wages, or that he's come up with this novel way of investing in them as well?
I think it's probably a combination of the two, really. Looking at the statement yesterday, I think they have, like some other clubs have in previous seasons, inadvertently sneaked over the salary cap. I don't think they've gone out to say we're just going to completely ignore the salary cap. We're going to disregard it and break it as much as we want. I don't think that's what's happened. I think they've, as some other clubs have done, have sneaked over it a couple of times, and that happens, and that's a mistake on their part, and they have admitted as much in the statement they released yesterday. But I think the bigger kind of query is about these kind of investments, and it's kind of how far do you take it? Because you mentioned the Owen Farrell and Maro Itoje ones. There's one to Billy Vunipola and Mako Vunipola and Richard Wigglesworth. But also, you look at how Nigel Ray's been an investor in some of the other businesses that players have set up that, are successful businesses. You look at Chris Wiles and Alistair Hargreaves have their lager company. Brad Barrett has his coffee company. Nigel Ray's invested in those. Does that count as external business interests? Or is that, again, that's Nigel Ray looking after his players, seeing they've got, something to set them up for life after rugby, because it's a short career. And I think that's what Saracens have mentioned as discussing player welfare in their statements as well, is that they are very committed to looking after their players and making sure they are rewarded and are set up for life after rugby. And I think that's a key part of what's happened and what Nigel Ray is investing in is making sure that they're set up for what they do after.
Okay, but what other clubs have been done for this in the past then?
In terms of the investments in the other businesses, it's unprecedented. Harlequins, in terms of a salary cap fine, did get done a couple of seasons ago, and there was another Premiership club as well. But those were so kind of minor, those fines, that this has absolutely dwarfed all of them.
Okay, all right. So what happens now? There's an appeal in process. As long as this appeal is ongoing, then the points deduction doesn't come into force. Is that correct?
At the moment, it was quite funny looking at the Premiership Rugby website yesterday, where about 11 o'clock the points deduction was there, and then a bit later in the afternoon it wasn't. I think Saracens have got to play assuming that is going to be the case. I think even if there is some sort of appeal or review process. I can't see there not being some sort of points deduction. I mean, you don't come out and make a 35-point reduction and then expect that to get reduced massively at all, because it would then be slightly embarrassing for those that have kind of imposed this sanction if it then got wiped out completely. So I think there'll still be a fairly sizable points deduction. So Saracens, certainly the players that are going to be playing for the rest of the season, have got to realise the situation they're in, and they're going to have to, fight in every game, because it is now going to be a relegation battle.
Okay, so in the 3-year period when they failed to disclose their payments, that being 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, they won 2 premierships and 2 European Champions Cups. Is there any indication that they might be stripped of those now?
No, I'd be very surprised if that happened, because I think other fans of other clubs will always view them as tainted and always have their own opinions of it. But I don't see those titles being stripped. Certainly the European Cups, they obviously operate independently of Premiership Rugby, and while the argument would still be Saracens wouldn't have been able to compete in the way they did if they didn't have the squad that they did, I think it's also worth making the point that a lot of what Nigel Ray's done in terms of building the squad and trying to develop Saracens as a club is to try and be successful in Europe. And you look until Saracens won it a few years ago, it had been a lot of French dominance who don't have a salary cap, who could spend whatever they want on players. And English rugby wasn't competing in European club rugby at all. And Saracens have changed that. And that's, again, why it's frustrating as for Saracens fans and other people that have kind of seen the club develop, seen it built on academy products with other players kind of added in around, to see that we've really tried to drive the standards of English rugby, and now we've been hit with this massive deduction and penalty.
Yeah, that's certainly the line that's been put out there, isn't it? You've got Billy and Mako Vunipola, Vun Prop Limited. They're listed on Companies House as other letting and operating of own or leased real estate, although it's not believed they're directly involved. You've got Richard Wigglesworth as well, of course, Wiggy 9 Investments Limited. So do you expect now, let's just assume that there is a 35-point deduction and a 5.3 million quid fine. Let's just assume that somehow that all does end up going through. Do these players, like your Owen Farrells, your Maro Itojes, your Wigglesworths, your Billy and Mako Vunipolas, do they show Nigel Ray the same kind of loyalty or that he's shown them, i.e. do they repay him lining their pockets handsomely, even if Saracens go down? Do they stay at the club?
I think we'd probably see something similar to what's happened with Newcastle this season. So they obviously went down at the end of the last season. Mark Wilson, who's involved in the England squad, has basically agreed a loan deal to play for Sale Sharks this year, so he can still be playing at the highest level. So something like that may potentially happen. But I think it's also worth making the point that the Saracens international players, when they do play for Saracens, and it's unfortunate this season that time's going to be limited because they've got to have rest periods because of the World Cup. I think when the international players do play for Saracens, one of the reasons Sarries have been so successful is because the international players really turn up for their clubs and put a shift in, and they really care about playing for the club. So when they are out there, it's not like they're just getting the job done between internationals and just kind of there to tick over before they get back into England action again. They really lay it all out there and care about the club. So I think when they are going to play for Saracens this season, they'll absolutely rip into it. And I still think Saracens will stay up and will get enough points during the season to, even with the reduction, to be okay and avoid relegation.
If they do stay up, then realistically, the 35-point thing is irrelevant. They're not going to win anything this year now, so fine. And the 5 million quid, well, if Nigel Ray is worth 350 million quid, then again, you'd have thought it's not really that bad. And if they have, in those years that they have, been alleged to have done wrong by, in terms of their pay structure, won 2 premierships and 2 European Champions Cups, then in the round, you'd probably say it was worth it, I think. But it is potentially a particularly negative situation for them. What do you make of other clubs like Exeter, for example, and Harlequins coming out and saying that actually they want the club to be punished even more than they have been already?
I can't say I'm surprised, to be honest, that they've come out and said that. I think I can understand why some clubs feel slightly wronged by it, but equally, I think there's got to be a realisation. This isn't just a franchise system where you've got to split the talent as equally as you can and distribute players evenly. This is competitive professional sport where the owners control the clubs and they want to build the best club they can. And that's always been something Saracens have pushed the boundaries with, even back when professional rugby first came in and they signed plenty of players back in the 90s and it didn't really come together as a squad. They ripped that up, they changed it 10, 11, 12 years ago or so, created a different culture, have developed a team, a lot of academy graduates, and built others around it. And, Saracens are basically just trying to, I think one of the things for Nigel Ray is he's trying to drive the standards of English club rugby. And I think other clubs have been bent out of shape by how that's happened. And obviously, if there has been breaking the salary cap, that has to be punished. But equally, I think it has to be kind of revisited as to the suitability of the salary cap as it is at the moment. I understand it's there to stop other clubs kind of overpaying and struggling themselves, which is definitely a good thing. But equally, it can't then be a ceiling to restrict how English club rugby can develop. Because without Saracens, I don't think England would get to the World Cup final. And there's that balance that's got to be struck. You want to have clubs that are competing at the absolute top level.
That's what I was going to ask. That's what I was going to ask. You've got Owen Farrell, Maro Itoje, Wigglesworth, Billy Makavuni-Pola, a couple of others as well, of course. And is that fair to say, actually, that without Saracens, without Nigel Ray or somebody like Nigel Ray anyway, that actually not just the quality of club rugby in this country, but the quality of international rugby in this country would be severely diminished? And my point there being is that should we actually be giving this guy credit and not fining him 5.3 million quid and docking his team 35 points?
I think he does deserve plenty of credit in the way he's built Saracens up and also, developed a culture and developed a side that really want to fight for each other. The academy has produced so many top quality players in recent seasons, and we've seen the fruits of that in the England team and in the Lions, and produced these fantastic international players. And I looked at, I think that the Australia performance in the quarter-final, even the New Zealand performance to an extent, there were elements of that were so recognisable to some of the Saracens European Cup knockout matches, because those players have built up that experience in the big games at club rugby and then been able to transfer that into the international game. And you look at the core of that England team, because there were players that played with each other, that had kind of built systems with each other and understood how each other played. They've been able to, implement that at international level, and it's definitely been to English rugby's benefit. And also, those players financially could easily get more money if they went out to France, but then obviously they wouldn't be able to play for England. So it's kind of getting that balance right between Saracens want to develop players, reward them, and not have them, go and earn money elsewhere where they could potentially then not be available for England, and that would be detrimental to English rugby.
Absolutely. Sam, really appreciate you coming on.
No problem, thank you.
Great stuff. Sam Limbert there, Saracens pundit, giving us his thoughts.
I think there's a really interesting business element to this, because clearly football and Premier League football is just a different kettle of fish. You've got financial fair play, but it's basically not worth the paper it's written on, really. Whereas clearly here in rugby, there are a lot more strict rules. I'm concerned about what this says, because if you are a Nigel Ray and you are worth, 300 million, right? Then you obviously want to do something with that. You take on various passion projects and do whatever. Now, the only reason why you would want to, and let's make no mistakes about this, Nigel Ray will be losing money out of Saracens massively. Most football club owners, I imagine, are losing money out of it, right? The only reason it's worthwhile is if at the end of a season he's got a realistic chance of winning some silverware, because that's what they all live for, isn't it? But actually, by creating this situation now where Sarries have been fined 35 points and 5.3 million quid, doesn't it just say to a Nigel Ray figure, actually, you know what? Go and buy Charlton, or go and buy a football club, or go and invest in a new tennis tournament or something like that, instead of actually getting involved in rugby, because you can put a load of money in, but you're not going to be allowed to create a situation where all of the best players can come and play for you, and where you're not going to win anything at the end of the season.
It's an interesting point. Do you know what? I want to go into a bit more detail on this, because I guess you look at the Premier League and you see how strong it is, and there is a reason for that. Like, it's attracting, I guess, certain people, not necessarily all the right types of people, must be said, but of course the amount of money in the game is then increasing the quality, and it is that more attractive, I guess, to investors, which, and certainly where rugby is, you'd think they'd want to attract
You've
that.
got to dangle the carrot. You've got to make something attainable. If Saracens adhered to all of the rules on player wage caps and everything, then realistically, are they going to have Billy and Makavunipola, Maro Itoje, Owen Farrell, Richard Wigglesworth? No, they're not. And okay, maybe there's an argument that they shouldn't all be hoarded like that. However, that's at Exeter and a fair few England players as well. But if they don't have all those players, then they don't win anything. And if they don't win anything, then Nigel Ray leaves, and then they don't have Nigel Ray in rugby. And you think, well, you've got to dangle a carrot there for people. You've got to give someone an incentive that you can put your money in and see a result at the end of it. And I think these caps and these restrictions stop that a bit.
I remember them when they dangled the carrot for you, and it did nothing. But when they dangled the cake,
oh mate,
wow, you were like an animal.
Well, they only dangled it for a matter of seconds, didn't they? Yeah,
28 minutes to 8.
This is Love Sport.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men.
Pants
and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
Don't get caught out by rising energy bills this year. Leading price comparison site A Spokesman Said can help you save money in just minutes. Plus, sign up to A Spokesman Said to get the latest super cheap collective energy deals. These offers are such great value, they aren't even available direct from the energy companies. Savvy customers have saved over £10 million from collective energy deals. Go to aspokesmansaid.com and you could be saving big money on your bills.
With aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it, you just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F. Face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10. Chelsea, last night, want to talk about them. We're going to talk lots of rugby today, of course. It's a big story, this. It's all over the back pages in regards to Saracens, the fine, the points they've been docked. We're going to be talking about that a lot. We are going to be talking about the games upcoming this evening. We've got Rich Hall on the line shortly. Of course, Atalanta face Man City tonight. We did have a couple of our boys in action last night, Chelsea in particular, who were excellent for certainly second half.
Yeah.
They were excellent second half. I'll tell you what, and I watched the game against, I say they were excellent. I'm loving watching them play.
Yes.
For me at the moment, they're the most entertaining team in the Premier League.
Oh, you don't mean that.
I do, because...
No, you don't.
No, entertaining for the fact that they do concede goals.
Yeah, okay.
They're fun to watch.
Okay.
And last night was a great example. Do you know what? They were opened up several times, too easily at times, I'd certainly say. But second half, I thought they were very, very good. Let's hear from Mr. Frank Lampard again.
I said to the lads at half-time, I'm not trying to say how clever I am, but I said I think we're going to draw this at least 3-3, could be 4-4, could be 4-3, we can win it. It's up to us, because if we get rid of the crazy moments that gave them the goals, some misfortune, some on us, I just felt we were so in the game, and we were so short of just that last pass, the final third. Christian looked so dangerous, Pulisic, Willian looked dangerous, and I just felt that we would build momentum, and fortunately we did.
So Frank Lampard saying, I told you so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked that when he was like, right, I told him at half time, don't want to sound like a genius or anything, but we could draw, whether it's 3-3, 4-4, and we might be 4-3 to us, it might be 3-2 to them, 2-1, 8, 7, 9, 15, 28, we're going to play 4-4-2, 18, right, come on boys, we're number one.
Frank, you've gone through every different scenario there, mate. You're probably going to be right at some point.
Frank just needs a reboot.
Yeah.
Okay, Frank, come here, mate, come here, you just hit. Right, lads, okay, let's have a good second half. He's back.
Gave him two halves.
He's back.
But look, it was. The second half was thrilling, and they probably should have won. I say that. Kepa makes a good save at the end, even with 9 men. Ajax, they've got some good players, Ajax. Every season they seem to produce 2 or 3 more good young players. And we spoke about the fact yesterday that Ajax, so what was the record? Chelsea had a 100% record at home against Dutch opposition. They don't have that anymore. Ajax are still unbeaten against English opposition in England. Was that the stat?
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yes, that is true.
So there you go.
And Chelsea have never... Wait, hang on a minute. We said something's got to give.
Well, what did give? Chelsea had won all their previous games.
Oh, had they?
Yes,
Okay,
so that's
the stat. Okay, all right. So the stat was that Ajax had never lost in England in 39 years, and Chelsea had only ever beaten, had they?
Dutch opposition at home.
Right. Okay, got you. Okay, well that gave then. Some stats.
Go on.
Stats. Deja Blue, the last time Chelsea conceded 4+ goals in Champions League game was over 10 years ago against Liverpool in the quarter-final at Stamford Bridge. 4-4 as well. Ajax had a total of 5 shots on target in last night's game, 3 of them coming when they went down to 9 men.
Wow.
Which is quite interesting. In last night's amazing stat-packed game, there were 8 goals, 2 penalties, 2 own goals, 2 red cards, and 5 of Jorginho's last 6 goals for Chelsea in all competitions have now come via the penalty spot. Just some stats for you there.
We do love a stat. And so Tammy Abraham's on the score sheet again.
Yes.
At the wrong end. But still, he's on the score sheet every game right now. It was actually a pretty poor own goal. I think he'd be a little bit disappointed with it. Positives for Chelsea yesterday for you?
Yeah, look, definitely. And I think this is it, isn't it? Which is that, Chelsea fans, all right, okay, there are clearly faults in this Chelsea side. But everyone, Frank Lampard knows that. Everyone knows that. But despite that, they're being ambitious, and they're pressing forward, and they are going, right, look, we will score goals. We will go toe-to-toe to you. Can I just say, Christian Pulisic looked really good yesterday.
He really does. He really does. And
I think actually they've struck gold with him, to be honest.
And bearing in mind, 2 weeks ago, you kind of felt like he was a bit of a misfit.
No, but I like that. No, I didn't. I think it was the case that he was settling in. He is young. It feels like he's been around for ages because he's American. It's a bit like, you remember Josie Altidore?
Yeah.
When he was like 16 or 17, because he was just, the American, it was like, oh, this guy's incredible. And it felt like he'd been around for years. But by the time he was 19 or something, wasn't he basically on the bench at Hull or somewhere?
Yeah, kind of faded out.
Yeah, whereas with Pulisic, I think, he's 21, I believe he is. It does feel like he's been around such a long time. And it's going to take him a bit of time to settle in, and it looks like he has done that.
Well, there's some, you love a stat. So Reece James became the youngest Chelsea player to score in the Champions League, 19 years, 332 days. There's another one about goal score. There was actually one before the game against Watford. Had they scored 3 goals against Watford and won, they'd have been the first team for like 50 years or something that had scored 3 goals in 5 consecutive away games and won. So they're scoring so many, and in the end they won 2-1, of course, but they're scoring so many goals, and they have so many different ways to attack. It's that young vibrancy.
Yes.
I think that's what it is. It's that innocence almost.
I don't want to kind of bring everything back to Manchester United, because I don't like using Manchester United as now the example as to everything that's wrong. But it is. When you look at what's going on at United, they can basically only score from a set piece. And sometimes even then it's when Rashford smashes it in from 40 yards, right? With this Chelsea side, they've got good young talent that does score goals. Yep, flaws at the back. Absolutely. Inexperience in the middle of the park as well. Yep, absolutely. But goals. And you've got Tammy Abraham there and Mason Mount. Now, compare that to Lingard and Rashford.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me feel dirty putting them in the same breath as the likes of Abraham and Mount, And that is how far Chelsea are. But that is how far... That's the England pecking order now for me.
Yeah.
That's where they are.
I wonder as well, though, we talk a lot about the environment created, and this is where Frank Lampard looks still so new to management. Second season in management, had a good go of it at Derby, which was the perfect apprenticeship, but he's been put on the fast track. No one else gets an opportunity like this. I think the narrative is working to support him. The whole transfer window ban, I feel, has given him a bit of a free ride to an extent, but he knew. They brought, by the way, the 2 players that have come in are worth £100 million, by hook or by crook. They've come in this summer, of course. And then you've got the younger players who he knew all about. So he must have known coming into this that actually if he could put his ideas across, get that environment across that is that learning environment, which he's got with these young players, and knowing the quality that he's got with a Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount, who's so underrated going into this season, he must have been quite excited thinking, actually, I've got a bit of a free ride here and I know how good these players are.
I personally think that when Frank Lampard sits down in the dugout, he sits down and the tray comes out from underneath his seat and he just rests his absolutely massive knackers on it, right? Because this guy has got balls to spare. Who would have taken that Chelsea job at that particular time? You shouldn't have done that. He had a one-hit go at this and it could have been his dream over with. It could have been his dream over with, mate, because if he'd have gone and it had been a disaster, which it could have been with his transfer ban, he'd have never got the job again. He'd never got the job again. He went from Derby to Chelsea, took it on, took these youngsters under his wing, left Pulisic out for a bit. How easy would it have been? Eden Hazard's replacement, everyone. We're starting him every game. No, he's not done that. I think he's done very, very well. And he goes to attack teams.
No. Right, if he'd had not taken this job, then what was his next job? A low-end Premier League club. Let's say he goes low-end Premier League and ends up getting relegated with them. He never gets the Chelsea job, ever.
But this Chelsea job before, mate, it eats managers. It chews managers up and spits them out.
But this is it. So then he's coming in. Normally, it's because they've got 150 million to spend. He's come in, and as far as anyone's concerned, he's got nothing to spend.
Yeah, but you're literally working for a bloke who's Vladimir Putin's best mate.
Okay,
the
that
knackers on that guy,
yeah,
mate.
I haven't considered that.
There's that, isn't there? Oh,
it's
Frank,
a small issue.
Frank, drink the tea, Frank. Absolutely not, Roman. No, I don't. I saw what happened at that hotel, and I don't want it. I don't want that for me. Drink the tea, Frank. Just drink it. It's bright green, Roman. It is minty. It is minty. Oh, I don't know. It does have the whiff of polonium about it.
You think that Frank Lampard knows the word polonium? I don't think I do. So, since when do you do a Frank Lampard, by the way?
Since right now, and it's absolutely awful.
Your Roman's good, though. Your Roman's good.
Hello.
Although I kind of feel like it is a bit of a stereotype, just a classic Russian accent.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, making very slanderous allegations about the amount of polonium that they put in their tea.
Yes, indeed. No, I do. Okay, that's a point. I do disagree. I just think that Frank Lampard, if you're coming into a job where there's such little expectation, which there is at Chelsea, because we built this narrative of no one coming in. Like, Tottenham did it for 2 windows out of choice. Like, Chelsea are doing it because they're forced, but because he knew just how good Mason Mount. We didn't really know. We knew he'd done a good job at Derby, and these players had done well at Derby.
But that's bottle as well, mate. Like, because you don't know, do you? Well, there was a time when you put your house on Marcus Rashford leading in the line for England for however long, wasn't there? And well, that house is now a bungalow and it's been condemned.
Yeah, the thing that Frank Lampard's done incredibly well for me is it's that excitement that he's brought, the connection between the fans and players, which, again, could anybody have done the job as well as Frank Lampard? I don't think so. They could have brought in another brilliant foreign manager and they could have struggled because they wouldn't have known the youth. They wouldn't have been able to get that connection with the fans that Frank Lampard's got.
You know what? One thing, I don't want this to sound horrifically sexist.
It's going to be horrifically
I think
sexist.
it might be.
Yeah, go on then.
Is Mrs.
Yeah.
Right? Christine Bleakley.
Yeah.
Now, I think you can tell a lot about a man by his missus.
Okay.
Right? So mine is nuts.
Right.
Okay? Whereas Frank Lampard, she used to do the One Show. She was very PC.
Fantastic she is, yeah.
She kind of rode back from her career to look after the kids and this kind of stuff. Not saying that obviously all women should do that. Absolutely not. Don't get me wrong. But this is the kind of thing where she's obviously very settled, very homely, very together, and very talented in what she does as well. And I just think that that's a nice thing. She's had it because with the best will in the world, Super Frankie Lampard could, go out round Las Vegas, gallivanting left, right, and centre, and frankly get, whoever he wants. And he's not. He's gone for a nice, stable lady, and I think that says a lot about the man.
Behind every good man
is a Christine Bleakley-esque figure.
There you go. There you go. Exactly that. Let's hear from the Ajax manager in regards to last night. No, we won't. He said that the two Reds...
He said, a super funky party time, you guys.
He said, let's have a converation.
Let's go to Amsterdam.
What he did say was that the two red cards...
He didn't say that.
He didn't say that at all. That's misquoted. We must clarify it. That did not get said.
Sorry.
No, what he did say was the 2 red cards changed everything. The passage of play. Do you know what? This isn't going anywhere. 7:45.
Giving your team the coverage they deserve. Love Sport Radio. Are you paying way over the odds for your car insurance? The spiralling costs put people off driving, full stop. But you're a careful driver, and realistically, you'll only need an insurance payout if some halfwit cuts you off on the M1. So you shouldn't be forced to pay massive car insurance premiums. And you don't have to. Go to price comparison site aspokesmansaid.com today and find out the best value car insurance deals on the market. Don't pay the price for not shopping around.
Spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics. All better.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. Patrick Christys, who has, I'm sure it's called a hammer finger. I think that's what it's
my
called.
gammy finger.
But yeah.
It's like a twiglet.
It does. I've got a similar thing going on, but yours is definitely a lot more deformed.
Yeah, so basically, just I'm glad we're doing this.
Yeah,
personally.
no,
used to play a lot of cricket, and as a result of me playing cricket, I've broken basically every single finger numerous times. Was a wicket keeper, couldn't really catch, and yeah, now my finger looks like the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah, I've got
the bells.
I've got a similar one that used to be called a knick-knack.
Yeah, knick-knack.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Oh, well. Right, let's do the show.
I'm glad we've done this.
When are we back, by the way? When are we back on air?
Oh, right now.
We're
let's
back.
talk a little bit of Italian football, shall we? Because, of course, Atalanta face Man City tonight, so who better to go through that with us than Mr. Rich Hall, Italian football expert. Morning, Rich.
Morning, gents. How's it going?
Well, yeah, good, thanks. Good. Let's touch on this game tonight. Atalanta gone along nicely in Serie A. Of course, they face City tonight. How do you see this one playing out?
It's an interesting one because Atalanta domestically have been doing fantastically well. If you take away the game on the weekend where they lost to Calgary, they did have Josip Ilicic sent off early doors there, so it didn't really help them. And Calgary were very good, but other than that, you know, they've managed to cope without Dubin Zapata. Luis Muriel's been scoring quite a few goals. Papa Gomez is playing extremely well, but, and it's a big but, when it comes to the Champions League, they just look absolutely naive. At the moment, it's not been a great campaign. We saw what happened previously against Man City. And the one thing they've got in their favour as well is Atalanta, because their stadium was being renovated at the start of the season, they weren't allowed to play in Bergamo, so they've had to play down the road in San Siro. And whilst that sounds like a really good idea, it's difficult to obviously fill it for them, and it's not their home. And their ground is very compact, and it's not really helping them. So I think Man City realistically should have a really good chance tonight.
Yeah, fair enough. There does seem to be a thing, and City arguably still are a little bit suffering with it, where when you are a kind of quote-unquote new boy on the block in Europe, and there does seem to be a little bit of a psychological barrier sometimes between you and that elite level. So it's quite reasonable that Atalanta might be suffering that a bit. Just moving away from that slightly, Hellas Verona, they are facing a stadium ban. This comes after some racial abuse directed at Mario Balotelli, I believe.
Yeah, this was horrendous on the weekend, and it's such a shame that with Italian football we keep coming back to this. Balotelli, of course, now at Brescia. They were at the Bentegodi. The Hellas Verona fans are notoriously political, should we say, in some respects. And Balotelli was racially abused. He kicked the ball into the crowd. It made it a bit worse. He walked off the pitch, which was no problem. I think it was probably the right thing for him to do. Convinced to come back on, and then he scored a fantastic goal. The sad thing about this is the results of it, what happens afterwards. The mayor of Verona is saying, we didn't hear anything. The coach didn't hear anything. And then one of the ultras came out on radio and almost made it out to be a complete joke. There is a very different attitude towards racism in Italy than there is in England. The stadium ban for me is the least they should have, because this has happened many times before, not just in Verona, but all around Italy. And Verona, unfortunately, one of the worst culprits for it.
Yeah, and I know one of the ultra leaders banned until 2030 over the incident. I mean, is there any improvement over there? Because it feels like this is a regular conversation that we're having. Is it gradually getting there, or is it worse than ever?
It seems to be coming back, if anything. I mean, I've been reporting on Italian football since pre-2006, and when I first started going out there, there was quite a bit of racism, and those years after Calciopoli were quite bad. I don't know if it's I think that these sort of things always mirror society, and without getting too deep into it, is where we are, in Europe at this moment in time. But in Italy, it is getting worse, and there's just been numerous incidents. And the problem is, it goes back to it. It's the attitude towards racism in Italy and the paltry penalties that they're given. It's not going to improve.
Obviously, game last night, Inter went down to Dortmund. Quite an entertaining game, from what I understand. 3-2 to Dortmund. Was that a fair result? I know that Inter were 2-0 up, I believe.
Yeah, this was incredible. And also, so was Antonio Conte's interview afterwards. Inter were absolutely everything that Antonio Conte wanted them to be in the first half. Lukaku and Martinez, brilliant partnership. Midfield was interchangeable. It was working really well. Dortmund couldn't cope with them, and defensively they looked excellent. They came out in the second half, a goal was scored, and they fell to pieces. And they went into what they used to be like back for the last 10 years, where they called Pazza Inter or Crazy Inter, because this is very like them to throw things away. You wouldn't have thought in the first half that they were going to do this. They looked too good. Antonio Conte, his interview afterwards, he was absolutely furious, saying that his players, apart from Diego Godin, were nothing. He was saying that he needs reinforcements, that his squad's too small. And this is a guy, they brought in Alexis Sanchez, Lukaku, Lazaro. They've got quite a few players in, but it's always like Antonio Conte to challenge the club. I need more players. I need more winners. He says his squad can't even cope with 3 injuries. So he went on a huge rant. It's quite entertaining, actually. But, typical night for Inter.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it indeed. Great stuff. Rich, as always, appreciate you joining us.
Thanks a lot.
Great stuff. Rich Hall, the Italian football expert, giving us the latest on the issues over there. It does seem, I know we've got the issues here, so it's one of them, people in glass houses and all that, but it does seem in Italy that it is a level above, and it doesn't seem to be improving.
No, they're properly racist in Italy.
That's what it seems to be.
Like, it's not like, right, any racism is wrong. Obviously, there is a difference, though, isn't there, between one, or a few absolute total idiots that have had a few drinks saying something, to a player in isolation in this country. Clearly, that's awful, but it happens. The difference between that and essentially organised far-right marches through the streets on the way up to a football stadium, lots of Nazi saluting, hefty amounts of monkey chanting, bananas being thrown onto a pitch, and just all of that, posters with, a picture of a monkey on it and things. Like, they are properly racist in Italy.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that not only that, they then, like you touched on there, they come out on the radio and almost make out as if it's nothing. And I think that's more the issue, right?
You're absolutely spot on, right? Because this is the thing. This is the difference where so many times in Italy now the response is, oh, it's a compliment because, look, you're good at football and we just want to put you off. And it's like, you're thick. Like, properly stupid.
Yeah. Well, look, Patrick, have you had enough of extortionate rises when you renew your insurance? You could be saving big money by switching to a cheaper deal. A spokesman said.com compares all the best deals on car and home insurance to find you the one that saves you the most cash. Go to a spokesman said.com and start saving today. There you go. Fantastic.
Well, that's fantastic.
That is indeed. We're going to be talking, I want to talk a little bit more of the rugby, if that's okay with you. Because, of course, we've touched on the Champions League. Lots going on in the Champions League. I'll be honest, I was half expecting a spokesman said.com.
I was as well.
Yeah. But hey-ho, you win some, you lose some.
Well, look, hey, you know what? Mark can't do it all.
That's true. He can do most things.
Supposed to do it all, but he can't do it all.
He can't do it all.
Yeah.
Let's touch on the rugby again. The big story today on most of the papers on the back pages is in regards to this huge fine that they've been given, a big points deduction. We are going to be talking at 8:15 to Chris Jones, rugby writer for Evening Standard and the Sunday Times, to get his thought. Of course, we had the thoughts earlier in the hour from Sam Limbert, who is a Saracens pundit. So I guess it'd be interesting to see if Chris Jones, who maybe doesn't have the association with Saracens, whether he sees it in the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And Martin Johnson as well, of course, who was England captain when we won the World Cup in 2003. He's on at 9:30. So we're going to be having a chat with him about it, just to fill people in case they're not aware. Saracens have been fined £5.36 million and docked 35 points. This is because they have breached the salary cap when it came to players. There's also, look, it's a bit more complicated than that, really, because the owner of the club, Nigel Ray, has also entered into business arrangements with various players, including Owen Farrell, the Vunipola brothers, Richard Wigglesworth and Maro Itoje, who, of course, are all England internationals. So, so it's a bit of a tricky one, that, and essentially they are appealing it. It could lead to Saracens going down. There's loads and loads and loads to get into here, but obviously we're going to be doing that more in the next hour.
We will do. And some breaking news. Two-time Olympic champion Nicola Adams has retired from boxing, 37 years old.
Oh, she's nice. She always has a very happy, smiley face.
I did actually meet her once, had a coffee. It was regards to something else a long time ago. Really nice, and just an incredible career that she's had. And credit to her.
She changed the face of women's boxing in this country, actually. I can remember when she burst on to the scene and, won at the Olympics. And it was just sensational, really, the way she went about it and her attitude as well. She's one of the good ones.
Indeed. I'm sure there'll be a lot of positivity flowing in over the coming days.
Try and get her on tomorrow.
Let's try.
Let's get her on.
Let's try.
Yeah.
I have still got a phone number for her, I believe. So, Mark, I'll pass it on to you. Work your magic. Fantastic.
No pressure, then.
No pressure at all.
Who's that?
Who's that? That's just a voice in the sky. Voice in the sky. 3 minutes to 8.
Love sport. Home insurance is vital. You don't want to end up paying through the nose when something goes wrong. But are you being charged way too much for your home cover? Are your insurance premiums simply too much to bear? It doesn't have to be that way. A spokesmansaid.com is a price comparison website that trawls the internet to find the best deal for you. Don't pay the price for not shopping around. Visit a spokesmansaid.com and start saving today.
A spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger, and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area. Drink some strong coffee, and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
Right, cheers.
Think. Don't drive tired.
Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus to stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
That's for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10. Pat, you had a haircut?
I have had a haircut, yeah, I've been shaved.
Oh, mate, looks nice. You got a tan?
I have got a tan, yeah.
You're looking well today.
Thank you, mate.
You made a real effort for me.
So what happened in the break was I criticised both Rich and our producer for not noticing my change in physical appearance, which I think is a basic courtesy.
Are you kidding me?
Okay, a basic courtesy.
You've not once mentioned my hair. Well, actually you have.
That's
for other reasons. No, but you've not once mentioned why I've had it cut.
I don't notice. I just thought it didn't grow.
I have it cut every week, once a week.
All right, well done.
Thank you. There you go. Well, look, you look lovely.
Thank you. So do you.
Better.
I'm glad we did that.
Fantastic. That's me too. Chris Jones, rugby writer, is coming up at 8:15 to talk about Saracens. Gary Gillespie, ex-Liverpool defender, is also coming up in the next hour
and
too.
Martin Johnson later as well, England World Cup winning captain.
Do stay tuned. 8 o'clock.
On digital radio, online, mobile, and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 8, the first official day of campaigning has begun with personal attacks between Labour and the Tories. Boris Johnson says Jeremy Corbyn demonises billionaires, but Labour's called the comments fantasy insults. Labour, the Tories and Greens are all making policy announcements later. Meanwhile, former Lib Dem leader Sir Vince Cable says his party's in with a chance.
I suppose the one big satisfaction I get is leaving Parliament having led the party through a recovery, and we've now got an excellent leader, and I think she will take it on.
A court in New Zealand's heard how a man killed British backpacker Grace Mullane, put her body in a suitcase and then went on a date. The defendant denies strangling the 22-year-old on or just before her birthday in December 2018. He says her death was accidental. Marks & Spencer has reported a 17% fall in first-half profits. Sales of clothing and home goods dropped 5.5%, while its grocery division reported modest growth. Children who don't have any brothers and sisters are apparently more likely to be obese. Studies found they tend to come from families that eat less healthily and have parents more likely to indulge them. The regulators told off the Department for Work and Pensions because of newspaper adverts about the benefits of universal credit. The ASA says a claim about how quickly people get back into work did not accurately reflect the evidence. Football Chelsea fought back from 4-1 down to draw 4-4 with Ajax in the Champions League last night. It could have been even better for the West London side had a goal not been ruled out by VAR. Christian Pulisic says the result says a lot about the squad.
It just shows the spirit of this team. We're never going to give up. We obviously have a lot of talent, but that was more just about the fight and the will to come back in that game.
Two-time Olympic champion Nicola Adams has retired from boxing. She's been told any further impact to her eye could lead to permanent vision loss. The 37-year-old's the current WBO flyweight world champion. That's the latest. I'm Tim Jones.
Love sport.
Ladies and gents, may I introduce a magical number? 25! Oh yes, 25 UK millionaires guaranteed in this Friday's Euro Millions.
Euro Millions, celebrating 25 years of the National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. Let's go through the top stories this morning. Chelsea come back from 3 down to salvage a 4-4 draw with Ajax in a pulsating game at the Bridge. Liverpool within touching distance the last 16 as they beat Genk 2-1 at Anfield. Liverpool also face 2 games across 2 continents less than 24 hours apart next month. Saracen vow to fight devastating ruling which sees them being docked 35 points and fined more than £5 million. Granit Xhaka has been stripped of the Arsenal captaincy and Son's red card has been rescinded. I'm here with Mr. Patrick Christys.
Do you reckon when they strip someone of the captaincy, they do actually have like a proper ceremony? Like everyone comes in, it's just like candlelight around the dressing room, everyone's got a red hood over their heads. Walk in, it's just Xhaka sat there in the middle of the floor with his kit on, like, no! Someone comes and just strips the armband off him. There's a bell, someone shouting shame. No?
Do you think there's music playing? Do you think you got the drums in the background?
Oh, yeah, just an occasional. Yeah, exactly.
Well, look, Aubameyang.
Tony Blair? Oh.
Aubameyang has been given the captaincy.
Yeah, he has.
Good call. People were saying Hector Bellerin. I
he's
thought,
a vegan, mate. You can't do that.
Again, the whole lack of information when it comes to veganism is astounding. But I don't know if that's necessarily a reason not to give someone the captaincy.
Well, I'm just going to put this one out there. Became a vegan. Got a massive knee injury.
What, he did or you did?
He did.
Because you went vegan for a little while, but then... Or you did it... You said you did to your girlfriend, but you actually didn't. It was just one of the many lies.
No, I identified as a vegan without actually being a vegan. And that, in today's society, is absolutely fine. And if it isn't fine for you, then that's your problem. And you are veganist, and you're a horrible person.
Right.
And I'm going to report you to Ofcom.
Do you know, I was vegan for a small period of time. Didn't really work for me, although I'm largely vegan. Do you know what? My brother went vegan, but only during the week. So then on Saturdays and Sundays, he ate more meat than you could ever imagine. It kind of made up for the previous 5 days.
Yeah,
so it kind of killed the point, you know, when you have that much meat over a weekend. Why don't you just spread it out throughout the week, Dan?
Yeah, I actually once went for a meal. This was like a few weeks ago. Lovely Indian restaurant around the corner here. And I am supposed to be vegan now, obviously, which I'm not. And we actually had a conversation where we'd ordered like a lamb dish, a chicken dish, there was some prawn going about, and we were going down the menu to see what other types of animal we could order. And I remember thinking, if my missus was here now, it's the opposite of veganism.
Yeah. Well, look, do you know what? Here we go. I've got a few on the screen. Guendouzi is a vegan. A lot of players. Jack Wilshere is, although that hasn't really worked for him on the injury front.
you very
That's
much.
fair to say. Lionel Messi doesn't eat meat during the season. Chris Smalling is a vegan as well. Do you know what? Like, I know we joke about it. You joke about it, but what it does do, and this is true, is that inflammation. So meat is quite acidic, and a lot of players want an alkaline diet. This is actually true. So vegetables, most fruits are alkaline from what I understand. So a lot will go down that route because it does reduce inflammation in the body, which for a footballer is good.
Excellent. Right, sports.
Sports. Well, look, I want to talk a bit more about Granit Xhaka. I want to touch on Son as well. His red card was rescinded, which was the right decision. Again, Gomez, horrendous injury, and of course he's had the operation, which was a success, we believe. So hopefully he makes a full recovery. The point was, and we made it, that it wasn't a red card incident, and thankfully it has been rescinded. It'll be interesting to see how Son recovers from this himself, because he was so cut up after that.
Well, Mauricio Pochettino says he's in extremely good form, as in personally, and that he's raring to go, whether or not that's just PR. But there are we've been watching some footage today actually come through from Sky Sports News of Spurs training, and Son, to be honest with you, looks perfectly happy. So, but you think, look, it was an initial shock, and it must have been a terrible shock, not least for Andre Gomez, of course. But I can understand where Son was coming from with it. It's going to affect you, but you need to get back on the horse.
You do indeed. So, Granit Xhaka has been stripped of the captaincy. Aubameyang will be the captain. Unai Emery, what happens now? There's another game before the international break.
Yes.
If that doesn't go particularly well, given how Arsenal have started the season, given these issues off the field, how big is their next game?
I think it's absolutely massive, to be honest with you. Unai Emery, I was going to say, it's amazing how quickly it can turn. I don't think it necessarily has turned that quickly for him, actually. I think he's had quite a long time now to impose it. And it all started out very well for me. He started by changing the way that Arsenal trained. He introduced a gym in a tent, apparently, right outside by their training pitch, so they could go right from training to do the warm down and to do a lot of cardio and things. He did put his mark on the club a little bit. He obviously was key to getting a lot of these loan signings that are coming through from the continent, which changed, I think, Arsenal's perception on the continent as a club that really struggled to do business in the transfer market to one that maybe actually did some quite shrewd business. He initially brought in people who were a bit of a stopgap. You got the likes of Lichtsteiner and people like that who did a job for that period of time. The issue is they've not kicked on from there for me, and I think that now, I know one of our regular callers in, Dave Seeger, Arsenal fan, big Arsenal fan, made a good point. I think it was the back end of last week when we spoke to him, when he said that this Arsenal team now, as far as Arsenal fans are concerned, has got enough quality in terms of personnel to be there or thereabouts, to certainly be very competitive.
Yeah.
And they are not being at the minute, and that has to be the manager, essentially.
Here's one for you. Of course, Arsenal's next game is away at Leicester. So there is a chance that if results go a certain way, there could be a 9-point gap between 4th and 5th. Obviously, Arsenal's 6 points behind Leicester as it is.
Yeah.
It's at Leicester. If Leicester win this game, there's obviously a 9-point gap between them. But you actually look at the teams below them. Sheffield United have got a tough game away at Spurs, AFC Bournemouth away at Newcastle, and then you've got the likes of Brighton, Palace, etc. Well, there could be a real gap where it could then be that those top four detach. Of course, Chelsea are playing against Crystal Palace at home, so they'd certainly be favourites in their game. I mean, if that were to happen, if we had a 9-point gap between 4th and 5th, you almost feel that it's done. Like the Champions League places are done.
Yeah, it is, but rightly so. Like, rightly so. Those have been the teams that have deserved to play European football next season. I actually don't want anyone else from the Premier League going to go and play European football, because I think it would embarrass the Premier League. Whereas those sides are all competitive, they're all there or thereabouts, they're all capable of beating each other, and they're all capable of beating any team that any European club throws at them. So I would want that. The idea for me, even as a Manchester United fan, that we would get into the Champions League, I think might be one of the worst things for Manchester United next season, and a terrible advert for the English league, because they would just go and get absolutely spanked.
Yeah, they would indeed. Of course, Arsenal, they've got their game against Vitória. Is this right? They've got the game against Vitória on Thursday night, and then they've got the game on Saturday. Is that correct? Wow. That doesn't seem fair. They've got a game Thursday night against Vitória. They've then got the game against Leicester on Saturday. That If that's correct, that does seem slightly harsh on Unai Emery and Arsenal.
No, Arsenal play tonight.
Ah, there you go. I was going to say, that makes more sense. Yeah, I was going to say, all right, but still, it is quite a short period of time, though, between the two. That does make more sense, 'cause I thought ordinarily the Europa games are on a Thursday,
Did
but
you
of course...
do your thing where you get to the middle of the week and you forget what day of the week is?
That does... Well, we are on hump day,
We
aren't
are
we?
on
Of
hump
course.
day. Because I do that sometimes. I had quite a phone call with my parents the other day when I was like, look, you know, and look, I'm coming home on this day. I've said it's this day. It's this day. And they were like, Patrick, it's Monday. Right? And I was like, no, I'm wrong, aren't I? I hate it when I'm wrong.
Their game today, by the way, kicks off at 3:50.
I tell you what, by the way, you must feel awful now because you've got an extra working day in the week.
What do you mean?
Well, you thought it was Thursday.
I know.
And it's Wednesday.
And all of a sudden...
that weekend has just zipped off, hasn't it?
It's miles away again.
Hey!
Oh, man. But then I've got an extra day of life.
Hey!
There you go. Their game today, of course, kicks off at 10 to 4. Fantastic.
Yeah, weird.
Fantastic. Away at Victoria. So we'll, of course, be talking more about that. Look, the big story today is the rugby story. We're going to be speaking to Chris Jones shortly, rugby writer for Evening Standard, Sunday Times. Just to touch on this again, it's an unprecedented ruling sees Saracens dock 35 points, a fine of over £5 million.
Yes, this is relating to them breaching the player cap, salary cap. However, there are lots of elements to this, as you can imagine, because the actual report that was conducted into this said that Saracens had not intentionally tried to do so. What the owner has done, which is actually quite novel here, Nigel Ray, is to enter into business agreements with some of his players. So Owen Farrell, England captain, of course, Maro Itoje, England international, Billy Makavunipola, and Richard Wigglesworth. Now, he has set up businesses with them. Owen Farrell's is Faz Investments. We've got Wildman Project Limited and MN Property Solutions for Maro Itoje. Wiggy 9 is just the Wiggy 9 Investments Limited. Nothing. If I got approached by an investment company called Wiggy 9, I think I'd rather give it to that bloke from Nigeria.
Who, by the way, has been in touch more. For those who missed the show the other day, I get a lot of emails from Nigeria. Lots of people are offering so much money, and unfortunately none have come off yet, but I am still hopeful. One day. I
didn't know you had so many Nigerian relatives.
I didn't know either.
It's nuts, isn't it?
Who knew? I thought Lee was more of a Chinese surname, but it turns out that maybe I've got all sorts of links in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So there you go. To me, this seems, surely if you're setting up a business privately alongside, they're obviously, they link the two, I get it, and he's obviously, or they're trying to find a way around the rules, but to me, it seems okay. If it's a private thing and it's separate, yes, I understand they're linked, but what would stop you, and providing they are legitimate, which a lot of these will have legitimate businesses, legitimate ideas that they want to run with, whether it is a property company or an investment company or what have you.
I personally think... Okay, and look, we are going to be speaking to Chris Jones, rugby writer of the Evening Standard and the Sunday Times, in about 5 minutes' time, who may well completely contradict in a much more educated fashion what I'm about to say. And if he does, then fair play to him. We've also got Martin Johnson, England's 2003 Rugby World Cup winning captain, on. Again, they may well prove me wrong on this. I think there's a bit of bitterness going about here from the likes of Exeter, from the likes of Harlequins, who are bitter that Nigel Ray is a bloke worth 315 million quid and has done them. Actually, just done them. He's come up with a way here of getting around the salary cap a little bit in a way that does not, despite the ruling, does not appear to be illegal, right? Or certainly illegal in terms of the rules of the Premiership, right? So I find it a little bit hard to see exactly why they've been slapped with a 35-point fine, 35-point deduction, and a £5.3 million fine. I get that this might seem unfair to a lot of the smaller clubs, but let's just have this right. England's players only get picked for England if they play in England, realistically. Now, the biggest wages are in France, so that means that they're not allowed to go and play in France for mega money. So their options are limited. Now, if you want to compete every single year to win the Premiership and to win the European Champions Cup in this country, you need some of the best English talent. To do that, you need to pay. And if there's a salary cap, then you can't really do that. So what you do is get around that by doing things like setting up businesses with them and investing in them and showing them a degree of loyalty that you hope will then pay off. So Owen Farrell now will look at it and go, well, I will stay at Saracens because actually the owner of the club is in business with me and we're making a lot of money on the side. I personally think that kind of ownership should be applauded and not detracted from, because now, is it any shock that we're seeing in the Times, owner did not see heavy penalty coming and could walk away. Rugby in this country would be worse for a chap like Nigel Ray walking out of the game.
Yeah. Well, I just wonder, I guess because of our background, or my background certainly being football, maybe my view on this is slightly biased because I see how football operates, and it makes more sense to me given that the Premier League is the biggest and the best in the world. So for all the negatives, there's a lot of it that is working, whereas, I don't know, this seems restricted to me.
Amazon, no tax. Google, no tax. Royal Family, Panama Papers. The whole thing. Right, you've got a bloke here called Nigel Ray who's gone into business with Owen Farrell and he's won a few rugby cups. Big whoop.
All right, well, look, we're going to be speaking to Chris Jones. We'll get his thoughts. Rugby writer for the Evening Standard and Sunday Times next.
This is Love Sport.
Hi, I'm Barry. I'm a retired school bursar from Chingford. I thought I was paying too much for my energy and went onto a spokesmansaid.com and found that I could reduce my costs overall by £568 per annum, and I'm very grateful for that help.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
This is Love Sport.
Lots for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. Now, look, we've been talking about this story. It is a big story today. Saracens have been fined over £5 million, dock 36 points. Delighted to say we've got Chris Jones, rugby writer for the Evening Standard and Sunday Times, on the line. Morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Good morning. We had a good conversation earlier with Sam Limber, a Saracens pundit, got his take. So really keen to hear your take on this because there's lots of different opinions. Where's your mind at with this?
Look, this has been, if you want, an accident waiting to happen in terms of the salary cap. Once you bring in a salary cap, then you're asking teams to be as inventive as you can if you want to compete in Europe. And quite honestly, during the years when Toulon were dominating the Heineken Cup, there was lots of whinging from English clubs that they could not compete financially because Toulon just went out and bought an entire international team. And so the salary cap was increased and increased and increased. And, throughout this time, clubs have been very, if you like, inventive in the way that they've dealt with the cap. I mean, for example, there was one occasion I know about where, because a team was coming up, they knew they were going to get promoted from the Championship to the Premiership. Therefore, they front-loaded the salary of their players, so because there's no cap in the Championship. So they effectively gave them a couple of years' salary in 1 year and said that when we get into the Premiership, we'll only pay you, say, 100 grand rather than 300 grand, but you've already got the money. So there've been people looking at ways around this sort of thing for years and years and years. And to suggest that Saracens are the only guilty party here is incredibly naive.
Yes, and this is... I'm really glad you said that, actually, because I was worried that maybe I was nuts, and that actually still may be the case. But but I was looking at this, and I was actually thinking, Nigel Ray, worth 350 million quid. He's a smart guy, clearly, and they've said there was no intention to try and breach the salary cap, and he wants to compete. He wants to compete at the highest level, and to me, it looks as though he's looking after his talent, to be honest with you, in a way that Derby County have managed not to do with their club captain. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, big whoop, to be honest with you. Some of the other clubs that are currently sneering at Saracens, should they maybe be a little bit careful what they wish for, do you think?
Look, English rugby doesn't make any money. to be an owner of an English rugby club, you've got to be part bonkers, and also almost it helps if you're a billionaire like the owner of Bristol. So it's attracted some people who just love the sport, and Nigel is at his heart a fantastic supporter of rugby. He's put over £100 million of his own money into creating the best club franchise in Europe, and he's made a lot of enemies along the way in terms of jealousy. And I can tell you that a lot of the stuff being said about, we're not going to play Saracens if they appeal, and, they should be relegated. Look, the regulations are being used to give Saracens a really good kicking. And if as the independent panel says, they are guilty, they deserve a good kicking. But all the other rubbish about we're not going to play them and they should be relegated, that's not in the regulations. If you're going to beat a club with the regulations, stand by them. Don't invent new ones then just because you're really upset because they won 5 Premiership titles and 3 European Cups. And, as I said, there are other people out there who if you ask, has this been fairly handled by your financial people? Have you also stayed absolutely within the cap? I'm not certain that an awful lot of those clubs could. Teams like Sale this year, ironically, are right up to the 7 million cap because they decided to make a decision to bring in a load of South African players to compete with the likes of Saracens. And I think the biggest mistake Saracens made is signing Elliot Daly from Wasp. That was like a final straw for a lot of clubs who were just fed up with them being able to go out and buy the best players in England. And I think that's the one that tipped everything over the edge, the signing of Elliot Daly from Wasps.
Just to be clear, so the salary cap is £7 million a year. Now, just so I am clear on this personally, what's happened at Saracens is they've recognised that the salary cap is £7 million a year. But in order to offset the fact that they maybe wouldn't pay some of their top talent as much as they would like to pay them, Nigel Ray has entered into business with them and set up various investment firms, and that clearly generates some revenue for these players on the side. Is that actually illegal?
He would argue not, because he said that a big part. By the way, they actually are allowed to spend more than £7 million because you get an allowance for every homegrown England player you've got, and when they're representing England. So you could probably go up to about 9 for what Saracens are able to spend legally. His argument throughout this has been, we're talking about the future of players and making sure that the age of 30, 31, or when injury comes along, that you just don't abandon them and they have no financial future. He's arguing that the companies he set up with joint venture money between the two parties will ensure that when they finish, they will have something to build on. Now, a lot of clubs look at that and go, that's absolute rubbish. It's just a way of giving them extra money. But he is adamant that he is trying to ensure, and family is a massive part of what they've built at Saracens right from the start when Brendan Benter first got involved, is they look after their own. And he insists, and he will continue to insist through the courts, that there is nothing illegal in what he's doing with his joint ventures. But the independent panel's taken a different view.
Okay, so...
Which he says is a very narrow way of looking at this. But the panel will probably say, well, we're only looking at it in rugby terms. Nigel wants to broaden the whole discussion about, looking after players once they finish playing, and if that means setting up joint venture companies. And this guy is a massively successful businessman, so you'd assume he doesn't go around making huge mistakes.
This is it. Now, let's just assume that I'm worth 300 million quid, right? Which is a massive assumption and one that.
Well, you would have 400 million if you hadn't spent 100 on Saracens.
Yeah, right, exactly. No, but this is my point, right? So let's say I've got 300 million quid and I want to I wanted to have a bit of fun with it. Okay. Now I could have a choice, couldn't I? I could invest 100 million quid of that into a football club, a League One club, a Championship club, maybe even a Premier League club, and expect to see a degree of return on that in terms of potential silverware at least. Whereas if I am worth 300 million quid and I invest in a Premier League rugby club, then actually if I adhered completely to all of the salary cap thing, then actually there's no guarantee of a return, is there, in terms of success, especially when we're competing in Europe against some of the French sides. So this ruling now, does this not make it significantly less likely that anyone with a serious amount of money is going to invest in rugby in this country?
Well, as I said before, if you've got a serious amount of money, you don't invest in rugby unless you're absolutely nuts, because you're not going to make any money. Even getting 20 million a club from the investment from the CVC, that's small beer. I mean, these nobody makes a profit in English rugby at the moment. They just don't make a profit because you do 7 million on your salary. Then you've got all your administrative staff. You've got all your running of the club. You've got all the ancillary costs. It's a massive investment to be involved in rugby, and it's not at the situation yet, unless it gets a brand new TV deal from somewhere where they're going to generate anything sort of like the money to break even or even make a profit. So you put your money into English football because there's a possibility of massive TV deals. That doesn't happen in rugby. So therefore, you look at all these investors and you think, well, you are absolutely certifiable to waste your money on English rugby. But then Nigel will argue, I just love the game. He just loves rugby. And, why is a billionaire involved with Bristol? That's because he owns the Bristol City Football Club, the local basketball team, and he likes to add the rugby to it because he wants to create a sporting city there, which is great, but it's only part of the story. Nobody's going to stand alone, not even Leicester, with 20-odd thousand season ticket holders, can guarantee making profits every single year because the costs of running a club are massive in English rugby. And honestly, don't waste your money. If you've got your 100 million, go to Barbados, buy a house, just sit there. Don't waste it on rugby union.
You're absolutely right. Think of the amount of rum punch we could have with that. But actually, I am thinking about that now. Anyway, back in the room. Isn't there a little bit of hypocrisy here? Harlequins were fined, I believe, was it £260,000 for Bloodgate, but not any points, and that was directly cheating, wasn't it? So is there not an inconsistency?
Well, you could argue that, but remember that was in European rugby. That wasn't in Premiership, and so. But in terms of downright cheats, I mean that was as bad as it gets, and the ramifications of that were massive for people like Dean Richards, who probably would have gone on to be England team manager, but it stalled his career, and it blighted the club for many years. With they're the Bloodgate club, and it still raises its head every now and then when there's a sort of cheating accusation, but. They didn't suffer anything in terms of expulsion from European rugby for 10 years or anything like that. They got a massive fine, and players were hauled before the beak as well. But as the Saracens saying, hold on a minute, you're charging us with a technical breach of a salary agreement, yet you're docking us 35 points and £5 million, and there are other clubs saying we should be thrown out of the league and relegated. Yet, a club that was found guilty of actual cheating with a blood capsule just got a fine. So, rugby is not very good at handling this sort of thing because it's all new. And also vested interests come into it massively. When you're a successful club, look at Manchester United. When they're in trouble, everybody joins in for a good kicking. It's because people don't like success, particularly in Britain. We don't like it. It's an anathema. So the chance to finally give Saracens a damn good kicking is being taken by everybody, and some of it, quite honestly, is just ridiculous.
Well said. Chris, thank you for joining us. That's Chris Jones there, rugby writer for the Evening Standard of Sunday Times. Well, seems to pretty much back up what you're saying.
Well, which rarely happens. But look, I'm intrigued to see if anyone else has got some alternative opinions on this, because I do understand that there are rules and that maybe what I am saying is a little bit controversial in the sense that I'm essentially legitimising them getting around those rules a little bit. But my point is that everyone does this. Everyone does this when it comes to their own personal tax, right? You don't just go, hello HMRC, what's the maximum amount of money I can give you this year, do you? You go, right, well, I've got my own company here, or I actually am based here, or whatever. Right? Everyone gets around these things, and that's it. You have a law and a rule, but you also have your ways of getting around that law and rule. And personally, I don't think he's done much wrong. I think that the jealousy and spite of a lot of other rugby clubs here and other rugby club owners could end up leading to having a massively detrimental effect on rugby in this country.
On the league, I was going to say, that's, I guess, the issue as well. It'll have a detrimental effect on rugby, on the league, on people that want to get involved in the league. I guess that's the last point. You made a good point there about Bloodgate, because the fine was, $250,000 or just over $250,000. Yeah. The fine here is $5 million. Yeah. So, I mean, you can link the two, can't you? Because it's different ways of...
Oh, look, you know what? I think it'd be absolutely fine. The likes of, Exeter and these people and the people that own these clubs, absolutely fine. Go for it. Kick Saracens out. You have Nigel Ray leaves. Other billionaires don't want to get involved. Some of the England players go and play in France. They can earn more money and then they don't play for England. And then you are sat there winning a league that means absolutely nothing to anyone.
There you go. Well, as always, let us know your thoughts. 0208 70 20 558 at Love Sport Radio on the socials. You can get in touch on YouTube as well. 8:30.
This is Love Sport. Follow at Love Sport Radio on Twitter for all the latest news, views, competitions, and the best bits from your favourite station. Love Sport, the station giving fans a voice. Whether you drive a car, motorbike or van, you need to insure it in case some dim-witted driver rear-ends you. But don't let yourself get mugged off by insurance firms. A spokesmansaid.com is a price comparison site that'll find the best deals for you.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the rent, and. The cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice, soon as. I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Search Macmillan Money Worries.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search One You.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work. Even a quick look at a message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. Right, we touched a lot on the Saracen story. It is, of course, a big story today. And, of course, the Champions League last night. A good draw in the end for Chelsea, drawing 4-4, 4-1 down, coming back to get a 4-4 draw. Ajax finished the game with 9 men. Good win for Liverpool as well. We haven't touched on the front pages this morning, but we're going to do that now. Briefly skip through the front pages.
There's a lot of fallout from bonfire night, mate.
Oh.
So I am massively pro-firework.
Yes.
So anyone that goes, oh, we should ban the sale of fireworks because it makes my dog very scared. Don't get a dog. Just floating that idea out there. Just going to put that one out there. Maybe lock it up for a night. Maybe let your dog be scared for a night. I'm scared most nights. Just going to put that out there.
Okay.
That's a me problem there. Yeah. But yeah, so bonfire night was going on. Now, I did have an issue with it because obviously I have to go to bed quite early to get up for the show. And as much as I am pro-firework, it got to about 10:30 at night, and I suddenly found myself being very anti-firework. I don't know how you felt about the whole thing, but yeah, there was a lot of banging last night, and there was some what? And anyway, police have come out and said that it has been one of the worst nights ever for violence and essentially mob rule on the streets of Britain. Gangs of yobs across the UK have been caught on camera hurling rockets at each other in the street, sending passers-by running for cover. It's been dubbed Wild West Britain.
What?
Yeah.
Sorry, what? I'm so confused. Why?
Well, I'm not legally allowed to tell people, how they do it.
Right.
But I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
So using firework night as a reason to write.
Yes, to target each other with fireworks. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, looks fun, isn't?
No.
That's the thing. So yeah, that's interesting. Isn't
Well, we
it?
had the front page of the Sun yesterday, which they're talking about inventive ways that you could set off fireworks. But there's nothing like that today.
Oh yeah, bloke set one up out of his bum, didn't he? And then had to go to hospital.
Yeah, he did.
And they were like, "Look, mate, this isn't really okay. There's someone in there with a heart attack. We need resources for them. you've got a singed rear end.
Yeah.
And it's entirely your own fault.
It's kind of silly, really.
Yeah.
Funny.
It's a good video of it.
No, it's not funny at
I've
all.
seen.
Do not do that at home. Okay, so the firework night has caused some disruption. What else is going on?
KSI and Logan Paul are due to fight very soon. These are the YouTube stars. Now, can you bring yourself to care about this? Billy Joe Saunders, an actual boxer, is on the undercard of Logan Paul and KSI. Do you know how much they're set to make out of this?
Go on.
They're going to split a purse, apparently, of $190 million. Wow. Yeah.
And they're YouTube fighters?
No, they're not even fighters. They're just YouTube
people.
Personalities. KSI played FIFA a lot and had a vibrant personality. Logan Paul does such tasteless pranks as going to Suicide Forest in Japan and filming it. Literally happened.
Wow.
Whilst wearing a Pokemon hat. He also got banned from YouTube for a while for tasering rats.
Okay.
Yep. Also, he's facing allegations that he's on steroids.
Okay, those allegations may well be founded.
Holding up a picture now, Rich.
Yeah, that's what a specimen.
Yep. So people are asking if there are drug tests taking place for this. So that's going to happen, and I think it sets a really worrying precedent. It's being streamed by DAZN, which is of course the company of Eddie Hearn, who is streaming all this. Look, it's a bit ridiculous, the whole thing, though, isn't it? Like, the fact that you've just got two people. It's a bit of a freak show. Like, at what point do we get to a stage where we actually see a fight between, like, Floyd Mayweather and a wild boar? Which, by the way, I would pay for.
Well, that's the point.
I'd rather see, like... But should we just be done with it and go back to the gladiatorial days?
In what
Just
way?
have it. I'd have been at that massive amphitheatre in Rome, week in, week out, with 4 cans of Peroni or whatever it was they drink in Roman times. I imagine it was. That's Italian, isn't it? You know, shouting things like, "Go, I'm rooting for the bear! I'm rooting for the bear!" You know, hack him to pieces!
There's only one.
There's only one massive bear! One massive bear! You know, like that, yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I mean, look, is this the culture that we're in,
Did you
though, right?
see the way Kai Killius fought on Saturday, mate? Absolutely shocking.
Is this where we're at, though? Because this is the issue. So we mentioned earlier, of course, Nicola Adams is retiring today. So big news. And by the way, retiring over fears for her sight, apparently. So again, we'll touch on that in a bit. But she's retiring. Now, you then see a couple of people that have built a following based on something completely different.
Yeah.
And boxing seems to be the way in which we're bringing people together.
Yeah, and like, I'm not being funny as well, right? But these two people are YouTubers. Now, if you just go and... Because they fought before in Manchester and they drew. Now, look at Logan Paul's reaction when he draws, right? Now, his arm goes up at the same time as KSI's arm goes up. And Logan Paul is not looking at the time. And then he looks around instantly confused. You wouldn't know straight away that had been a draw, right? Because they hadn't announced it over the tannoy.
Wow.
So, hang on a minute. You knew it was a draw, didn't you? I think we all knew it was a draw, so you could set up another fight.
Yeah.
Right? So now you're in Logan Paul's territory in Los Angeles, his hometown. Right? You're going to be fighting in front of many people. I mean, there's going to be a trilogy, isn't there? So you don't think maybe Logan Paul wins? And then KSI wins the return one at, I don't know, Wembley?
Right.
I mean, it's all a sham. It's a total sham.
This annoys me. This annoys me in a big way. Do you know, one of my biggest things, one of my biggest pet peeves is unfounded arrogance, and it will be based on... I'm not looking at you, Patrick. I'm not looking at you. No, it's unfounded arrogance. I'll tell you what it is. It's the fact that because of this culture of reality TV, and it can make people stars without necessarily having to invest in anything. And when I say invest, I mean... dedicating your life towards something, trying to maximise what you can do in a certain area of your life. You know, you mentioned the fact that people going to school every day, going to university, learning a certain craft, and someone can just rock up having not studied, not done whatever, and seemingly take up a position, a high position somewhere, without putting in the graft. For me, that's a little bit like this. Now, I appreciate that they are personalities and people warm to them, but are they actually bettering humanity?
No, of course
I'd argue not. So then,
well, no, but I mean, it's Tyson Fury, to be fair. But yeah, but you know what I mean?
You know, Tyson Fury, though, actually, like, you consider, and obviously I mentioned my brother fought against him when he was 14 years old, and actually he got battered, yeah, absolutely battered.
I meant no, Tyson Fury was battered.
Right,
oh, okay,
at that
right,
age,
right,
yes,
right,
of course. But do you know what? He did dedicate his life to that, and yeah, he's had his issues and whatever, but actually I've got a lot of time for someone like Tyson Fury, because... as well, you can then look at Tyson Fury and take a lot of inspiration. And you can look, and there are many positives you can take from a Tyson Fury, from anybody that's made it to the top of their craft.
No, you're absolutely spot on. You're actually spot on. But we're the problem, mate. The only reason they're going to make 190 million is because this is going to break viewing figures for a boxing match. It's going to, we might set gate records. Don't know exactly how big the capacity is, but you get my point. That this is a financially viable project.
No, absolutely, and don't blame them.
It's not
but
their
it's just
fault.
then,
I'd do it.
I guess if then you're young and you're aspiring to someone, are these the types of people you should be, Mark?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting point that I think we live in definite uncertain terms now, where jobs and prospects in your future as a young person have completely altered. I had a previous boss actually at another job that was saying to me, "Oh, I'm glad." His son was about kind of 16, 17. He said, "Oh, I'm glad my son's finally put down those computer games. He started playing music. He's picked up a musical instrument." Now, I have a music degree. Never made me any money. But if you spend hours crafting at video games now, you can literally earn millions doing esports.
Yeah.
I mean, there was an interesting story this week, in fact, where a Fortnite player has been banned from playing the game for cheating, essentially. Like, it's built up such an awareness now where it's almost like kind of doping in sport, where he's used an aimbot, which essentially allows you to auto-aim on Fortnite. And he's got 2 million subscribers on YouTube, which is going to make him a boatload of cash on YouTube if he does it properly. And now he's been banned for life from the game, which I didn't even know was possible. And it's just like, what are these days that we're currently living in?
I'm really glad you've raised that, because this was a thing. So he's called like Faze or something like that, isn't he? This kid?
That's he's part of the Faze clan. Yeah, his name's Jarvis K.
Right, okay. Lives in a very nice house in Surrey.
Right.
Mum and Dad have done rather well.
Okay.
He's now worth 6.2 mil. Wow. This lad, he made an astonishing amount of money. Of course, that's come to a grinding, shattering halt, but it's a bizarre one, isn't it? Because I think as parents, your natural thing would be, get out of bedroom, you massive loner virgin, go and play some football, right? But now you think, well, actually, my loner virgin is a multimillionaire.
You're a rock star.
You're a rock star to a load of people that you'll never meet.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Because that's where your parents now lose the argument.
Yeah. And is this okay? So we talk about humanity, where humanity's going, and these are the type of people that you're aspiring to. And look, by the way, this is me now feeling really old, because I suppose we're brought up in a time when going out, playing sports, making friends in real life was a thing, and it's not now.
No.
Like, it's a different culture completely. You put up this fake idea on Instagram, this fake idea on social media to present yourself in a certain way, even though depression is at an all-time high and people are struggling mentally all over the place. I don't get it.
No, I don't, and I cannot understand why so many people invest so much of their mental energy in these kinds of characters like KSI and your Logan Pauls. I just don't really understand it. Why would you pay, upwards of 500 quid to go and watch a fight between two amateurs who aren't boxers,
who aren't good,
who aren't good?
It's because you've obviously invested into them as people, but it's going to be a dreadful match.
Yeah, on the undercard, you've got Billy Joe Saunders, who is a world-class fighter.
He's dedicated himself to that craft and probably has a fraction of the income that these two have.
It's so bizarre as well that they choose boxing. I mean, we've literally just had Nicola Adams, who's had to retire due to boxing at age 37. So it's not like the safest sport in the world. They might as well do like YouTube drag racing or something like that.
YouTube drag shows.
That too.
Now I'd watch that.
But at the same time, do you know what you said? You can't blame these two. I mean, look, if me and you were gonna split a purse of that.
I'd love to fight you.
I mean, look, to be honest, if we split a purse of 20 quid, I'd do it.
Mate, I'd fight you for free.
Let's
Anytime, anywhere.
Right now.
I'd fight you.
I'll tell you, we've got Gary Gillespie in 2 minutes. That gives us plenty of time.
Let's have it.
That'll be more than enough for me to do what I need to do.
Stop it.
16 minutes to 9.
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice.
Hi, I'm Dean. I work for a successful shipping company in Suffolk. Ever since I heard about people's success with the spokesmansaid.com, I knew I had to investigate for myself. Every time I need to compare car insurance, home insurance and energy bills, I always contact a spokesmansaid.com. This year alone, I saved over £260 on my car insurance and also £585 on my energy bills. I saved big through a spokesmansaid.com, and you could too.
With a spokesmansaid.com, fighting for you, saving you money.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it, you just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F. Face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
Love sport.
Lots for breakfast, mutually Patrick Christys. There were a couple of big games in Europe last night. Of course, Chelsea fought back to draw 4-4 against Ajax. And it was a win for Liverpool. They look set for the last 16. Of course, they beat Genk 2-1. Delighted to say we've got Gary Gillespie, ex-Liverpool defender, on the line to go through that with us. Morning, Gary.
Morning, how are we?
Morning, yeah, good, thanks. Hope you're well. It was another victory. Do you know, I made the point that Liverpool at the moment, they're not necessarily winning games by 4 or 5, but they are winning game after game. They've got a certain mentality about them right now.
Yeah, they're looking, I won't say unbeatable, because no team I don't think is unbeatable. But in saying that, without really hitting dizzy heights, they seem to manage games really well nowadays. And even when they go a goal behind, you never feel as if they're going to lose a game. And I think if you're going to be successful and win Premier Leagues and win Champions League, I think that's the kind of like mentality and kind of character you have within your squad of players, and I think they have that in abundance at this moment in time.
Well, that was kind of my thinking, where you talk about managing resources, where ultimately, whether they win, like Man City did, win 8-0 against Watford, but then go and lose the next week, whether they're doing that or they're actually winning each game by 1, it almost feels like Jurgen Klopp is managing the resources. They've got that mentality where they're winning a lot of games by the single goal. I wonder, and people always say, oh, well, at some point in the season they'll have a blip. I almost wonder whether this is that time where they're not necessarily firing on all cylinders, but we're going to see them improve at some point and actually start winning games by 3 and 4.
Yeah, I mean, it seems daft that we're actually even talking about this when you look at the position that they're in at this moment in time. It looks as if they're going to go through to the knockout stages of the Champions League. I think they're 6 points clear at the top of the table, and you know, most of the pundits that you listen to, and we're talking about, you know, Liverpool still not hit like the heights that they should be hitting, and I mean they're in a fantastic position at this moment in time, and whether this is the little sticky spell they're going through or not, I'm not 100% sure. I think December and January are always like big months for all Premier League teams, because there's so many fixtures crammed into that area and that kind of time span that, you know, you've got to use your resources well. And I don't think, I mean, Liverpool's squad is a good squad, but it's not necessarily the biggest squad in depth in the world. I mean, you look at Manchester City, I think their strength and depth is a little bit deeper than maybe Liverpool. So, you know, there's still hard times to come and difficult times. But as you rightly say, Jurgen seems to be managing them exceptionally well at this moment in time. And I just think they look a very, very, very powerful unit at this moment.
Well, and on that fixture, you mentioned the fixture list. I mean, I've got it in front of me here, and just to run through it very, very quickly. So it goes December 4th, Everton, December 7th, Bournemouth, if I won't say the dates, but Salzburg, Watford, Villa, World Cup semi-final, World Cup final, Leicester, Wolves, Sheffield United, and an FA Cup third round. So I think it's 11 fixtures potentially within a month, which is... Yeah. I mean, that's insane. They're talking, obviously, December 17th playing Villa in the Carabao Cup, and December 18th in Qatar for the Club World Cup semi-final, which they're going to have to, of course, put out 2 completely different 11s. I'm assuming that Jurgen Klopp's not going to be able to make both of those games. This is, I suppose, a bit of a concerning period for Liverpool, that you feel they need to get through this unscathed, but this is the kind of thing that could derail them.
Well, I think it certainly is. I mean, I think Jurgen made a little bit of a sarcastic remark that he was going to play the Carabao Cup tie and then fly out and play the World Club Championship the next again day with the same team. But I don't think that will happen. Obviously, I think there has to be something looked at, and you know, I think most managers in the Premier League will look at the fixture list throughout December and January, and would be probably saying exactly the same. I know Pep Guardiola has made reference to it in the past as well, and I think when you look at the fixtures, the way that the players have to play, and especially after the end of the season as well, we'll have the European Championships coming up. So, almost you're asking these players to play 12 months of the year, and so many fixtures in such a short space of time. I don't think it's doing anybody any good. And we talk about belittling competitions. I mean, the Carabao Cup, Liverpool will be playing an under-23 side down at Villa, and that can't be good for the competition. And that's got really nothing to do with Liverpool. Liverpool's hand has really been forced into that. I don't see how there's any way around it other than to change some sort of fixture list. But as I say, it comes up at this time of the year. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I don't really know the way around it, to be honest with you, but I think that certainly it's something that's got to be seriously looked at.
No, you're spot on. The fact that, especially quarter-final of the competition as well, to having to play such a young team, it's a bit of a shame in some ways. I want to touch on one individual, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, 4 goals in the last 4 games, as many in his previous 45 appearances for the Reds. He's looking every bit the player that we know he is.
Well, I did an interview after the game, which was quite interesting. I think himself still feels that he's not quite back to what he was before he had that serious injury. And I think that would probably be the general consensus. But he gives Liverpool maybe something just that little bit different from a lot of the other midfield players. He's certainly got his shooting boots on at this moment in time. There've been good goals as well, and his performances throughout the last couple of games that he's been playing have been really good in general as well. It's where you give him the best position and to be the most effective, I think, with Oxlade-Chamberlain. They've tried him, they actually started him through the middle last night, which didn't quite work, and then he moved into maybe a wider area, and I think that was maybe, it suited him a little bit better. But he's certainly, he's a valuable squad member at this moment in time, because I say he just gives you that something a little bit different from the likes of Henderson, Wijnaldum, Fabinho, and a James Milner.
Another positive, Salah been directly involved in 68 goals, 59 appearances, which is this exceptional. One thing I wanted to touch on was, and one negative, this is the longest run they've gone since 2014 under Brendan Rodgers in terms of conceding. They've conceded in the last 8 games, taken them a while to keep a clean sheet, something that they were so good at last season. Obviously, given your area of expertise, is that something they should be worried about?
I don't know if it's a concern or not, to be honest. I think as long as you're looking dominant in games and you look as if you're going to be able to win games, even regardless if you do lose a goal, I don't think it's too much of a concern. I think if you ask the back four and Alisson, the goalkeeper, I think they wouldn't be happy with that. It's maybe just one of these. I mean, it wasn't a bad goal that Genk scored last night. It was a really good near post header. Liverpool could have maybe defended it a little bit better. But in general, defending from set plays especially, I think Liverpool are right up there with the best in the Premier League with their record. So I don't think it's overly concerning the manager at this moment in time. But if it was to continue, it might be something that they look at. But on a personal level, I don't think it is, because they look so dominant in games and so capable of winning games even from trailing positions.
Well, if there's a time to keep a clean sheet, then it'll be this weekend. Of course, they've got Man City. How will they be approaching this game? Because I suppose on one hand, they go and win the game, then to have a 9-point gap going into the international break, they're going to be so confident that they can then go ahead and win this league. Similarly, if they were to lose this game, it really closes things up again and it's game on again. How do you think they approach this?
Well, it's obviously a massive fixture. I mean, I don't think with anything before December is going to actually determine where the league actually finishes up in May. But in saying that, psychologically, going into the international break with a 9-point difference would be huge for Liverpool. And I don't see Liverpool going away. I just look at them and I just think that they've got everything in order at this moment in time. They're so professional. They look a very, very strong unit, and even if they were to drop points against Man City, I still think that they have that confidence and that belief and that character within the squad that I don't think it would make too much of a difference. So it's a difficult one. I mean, Liverpool fans obviously will think if we go into the international break 9 points clear, it's going to be this. It's going to be our year this year. I mean, that's just what fans do. But from a managerial point of view, and from within the club, I'm sure they'll be really guarded about the situation, and they'll still know that there's a heck of a long way to go. And as you rightly say, we were talking about earlier, that fixture logjam over December and January could be key and could make a real significant difference.
Just quickly, which one out of these two managers do you think is the most intelligent? And by that I mean there's going to be a lot of mind games. They've started. It's going to be a game where the smallest tactical deviation could have a massive impact one way or the other. Out of Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola, two powerhouses, right? Which one do you reckon is most likely to get mentally the upper hand?
Very difficult to say. Not really knowing them personally and the personality. And it was interesting that Pep Guardiola made reference to Sadio Mane being a bit of a diver. Like he hasn't got anybody in his team that actually goes over quite easily. I honestly don't know. I think you look at Pep's record. Pep's record is obviously far better than Jurgen Klopp's with regards to trophies won, but Pep Guardiola's record is better than most managers. Ultimately, I think it comes down to players on the pitch, and I don't think it's about managers at this stage. I think it's about players on the pitch, and the game will be decided on the pitch by the quality that the teams play. And at this moment in time, I think Liverpool on the pitch are stronger and better than Man City, and hence the reason why, no surprise, that I'll go for a Liverpool victory at the weekend.
Fantastic. Gary, really appreciate you joining us.
Pleasure, lads. Have a good day.
Great stuff, you too. Gary Gillespie there, ex-Liverpool defender, giving us his thoughts on Liverpool currently.
Yes, fantastic. It's going to be an absolutely box office game, isn't it? And I think we might end up seeing a Liverpool win.
Do you think?
I think so. I think both of these teams so far this season, despite the fact that they've got off to incredibly good starts, and almost makes me, by definition, very stupid saying this, I don't think either of them have been at their best.
No.
And I think Liverpool have been better than City.
Well, City, of course, have a much better goal difference, and this is based, but then Liverpool, I touched on it there, where it just feels like they're managing their fixtures so well, and they're not putting out too much energy almost. Like they're getting the wins, they know when they're a goal ahead, they're so good defensively, they're often able to hold on to those leads. It does feel like they've just negotiated and navigated their way that little bit better. I don't know, I just think that Pep Guardiola, knowing how good he is, will he find a way to get something from this game? I just think he will. I don't think he'll necessarily win, but I could see it being a draw. Let us know your thoughts. 0208 70 20 558. 3 minutes to 9.
This is Love Sport.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you'd do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics. All better.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger, and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area. Drink some strong coffee, and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
All right, cheers.
Think. Don't drive tired.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys, here with you for another hour. Martin Bell up after us. Do you know who we got on in this hour, Patrick?
Do I? Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, I was going to hope you said no, and then I could be like, oh my God.
I haven't got a clue who's coming on.
We got Martin Johnson.
No.
Yeah.
No, the Martin Johnson.
The Martin Johnson. He's coming on at 9:30. So you want to stay tuned for that. We're going to be talking to him. Of course, we'll talk to him about Saracens. Be interesting to get his take on what's going on with them. We're also going to be speaking to James Richard, D3, D4 football, talking about the EFL. No apology from the EFL, assisting responsibility for the demise of Bury. That'll be an interesting interview too. There will be lots more football, of course, and we will go deeper into this Saracens story. As always, get in touch, 0208 70 20 558. The time is 9 o'clock.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 9, the Green Party's pledging to spend big and rid the UK of fossil fuels. They're launching their general election campaign with a promise to borrow more than £900 billion over the next decade. Co-leader Jonathan Bartley explains what it'll be spent on.
Creating good jobs right around the country, decarbonising our economy and tackling rampant inequality. And of course, we know that the more we clean up our polluting air, for example, the greater the benefit for the health service.
Meanwhile, Boris Johnson meets the Queen at Buckingham Palace later to formally trigger the general election process. A court in New Zealand's heard how a man killed British backpacker Grace Mullane, put her body in a suitcase and then went on a date. The defendant denies murdering the 22-year-old from Essex on or just before her birthday in December 2018. Records allegedly show he searched online for the hottest fire and large bags near me. Reporter Jackson Williams is following the trial in Auckland.
Prosecutors allege that he strangled Grace Mullane to death, but this is disputed by his defence lawyers. They claim that the British backpacker's death was simply an accident.
More than 11,000 scientists are warning of untold suffering if we don't do more to tackle global warming. They've declared a climate emergency after studying more than 40 years of data. Several people are being questioned by police after fireworks and missiles were thrown during trouble in Leeds. Bins were also set alight in the Hare Hills Road area, but officers say no one was hurt. Marks & Spencer has reported a 17% fall in half-year profits. It's after sales dropped by 5.5% in the fashion and home departments. In sport, two-time Olympic champion Nicola Adams has retired from boxing, the 37-year-old's making the decision on medical grounds. And a track recorded by George Michael before his death in 2016 has been released. The song, called This Is How, features in the movie Last Christmas, which is inspired by the pop star's music. That's the latest. I'm Tim Jones.
This is Love Sport.
This November.
You think you do it for the money? It's the game, the adrenaline rush. What if it is?
Prepare to read between the lies.
How much do you think she's worth? I'm gonna take it all.
The Good Liar is gripping and deliciously deceptive, says Baz Bamigboy, Daily Mail. Intelligent and brilliant, a must-see movie. Event, Mail on Sunday.
It's very peculiar. Secrets between you, God, the devil and the dead.
Starring Helen Mirren and Ian McKellen. The Good Liar. In cinemas Friday. Book tickets now. Certificate 15.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Good morning, Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you for another hour or so. Let's touch on the headlines this morning. Chelsea come back from 3 down to salvage a 4-4 draw at the Bridge in their Group H Champions League clash against Ajax. Liverpool are within touching distance the last 16 as they beat Genk 2-1 at Anfield. Liverpool also face 2 games across 2 continents less than 24 hours apart next month, as a possible date change for their Carabao Cup quarter-final against Villa is ruled out. Saracens vow to fight devastating ruling which sees them being docked 35 points and fined more than £5 million for an alleged salary cap breaches. Granit Xhaka stripped of the Arsenal captaincy, Aubameyang named as the new captain, and Son's red card from the weekend has been rescinded. You are with me, Richard Lee, and Patrick Christys. How are we doing?
Yes, very well indeed. Arsenal fans, I'm quite keen to hear from you about what you make of this Xhaka being stripped of the captaincy. 0208 70 20 558. Let us know your views on that, or at Love Sport Radio on Twitter, of course. We've got a very special guest coming up, as you said, Martin Johnson, CBE, no less, Rugby World Cup winning captain. So we're going to get stuck into the Saracens issues with him.
Indeed. We're also speaking to James Richard, D3, D4 football. Interesting story. So no apology from the EFL, insisting responsibility for the demise of Bury lies at the feet of the owners. So there's been people saying that perhaps they should help fund this. It's a strange story, but we're going to go into it with James Richard Richard, shortly. But it'd be interesting to get Martin Johnson's take on Saracens, which is the big story on a lot of the newspapers today, back pages of many of the papers, given that they've been given this extortionate fine. And now, bearing in mind, whether these relate or not, I'm not sure, but the whole Bloodgate incident for Harlequins, they were fined, I think, £260,000. Now, Saracens have been fined over £5 million and docked 35 points. Sorry. I mean, can you relate the two?
Well, I think so. I think you should, and I know that they were in different competitions. However, I think that what Harlequins did was more overtly cheating than what Saracens has done. Now, it's interesting that we've had Sam Lambert on. Now, okay, he's a Saracens pundit, so you know where his allegiances lie. But also, we had on Chris Jones, who was the rugby writer for the Evening Standard and the Sunday Times, and he made the point, which we've been making really, which is that Saracens here have got a salary cap of between 7 and 9 million a year. You get the extra additional couple of million if you have homegrown English players, of which they have loads, including Owen Farrell, Maro Itoje, Richard Wigglesworth, and Billy and Mako Vunipola. Now, what the owner, Nigel Ray, here, is worth around 350 million quid, has done is pay the players quite handsomely, but then also set up various investment firms for them. So Faz Investments Limited, for example, for Owen Farrell, is one of them. You've got Wiggy 9 Investments Limited with Richard Wigglesworth. And what he's done there is basically say, look, we will look after you. So you get your salary, you'll be very well paid. You obviously get paid for playing for England as well. But because we've got this salary cap and we know that you could earn more by going and, say, playing in France or somewhere like that, we will sort you out off the pitch as well and look after you for your life after rugby. Now, that, for me, seems like a very nice thing to do. It also seems like something that isn't uncommon, by the way, when we've seen what the likes of Chelsea have done and some other football clubs have done, where it has even gone as far in some football club cases as buying the mother of an African player a house somewhere like Ghana so that, you know, it sweetens a deal. Football's a murky world. And I don't want to throw this example out there lightly, but look at what happened with Emiliano Sala. Look at the absolute mess that was the agencies and the dealings and the money that was there, and that culminated in a plane crashing in the Channel in some kind of ill-advised midnight flight, you know, on frosty conditions. That's bad. That's awful. That's as bad as it gets. This £5.3 million fine, 35-point deduction that could, possibly won't, but could see Saracens relegated. For me, all this serves to do is penalise a club's owner for being creative, but also turn billionaires or multimillionaires away from investing in rugby in this country.
I guess the only issue would lie is if these businesses aren't legitimate and it is just a case of funneling money. But in theory, if the businesses are legitimate, which, again, we're led to believe that they are, which they should be, by the way. I mean, there's
no reason why they shouldn't be.
No,
really.
and this is kind of it. And if anything, by the way, actually, as an idea to build a business, if you're doing it with someone who's got a profile, which of course all these players do, then there's going to be certain advantages to that. You know, if you're creating, and of course he's a very, very intelligent man, so if you're creating a business with someone who's got a profile, someone like, speaking about Farrell, like he's got a massive profile, of course, I'd love to go into business with him because there's going to be certain advantages that come with that. So actually, it's a really clever way, in many ways, of creating extra income, which isn't just going to be for Farrell. It's going to be for the other owner of the business if they're going in 50-50 or whatever they're doing. So it doesn't, I don't know, they seem unrelated. They are related because it's a clever way of doing it. As you mentioned, we'd end up losing a lot of our talent to France if they didn't do this. But also by doing it, for me, it feels like a win-win if it's done correctly and done legitimately.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, and this seems to be the message that we've had so far from various pundits and journalists that we've had on speaking about it, which is that there is a degree of jealousy here from other clubs, such as Quins, such as Exeter, for example. Now, these are clubs who may feel aggrieved that an owner here, Nigel Ray, of a rival, a major rival, has been able to secure and lock down some of the top talent in world rugby and therefore win things. In this period of time when they failed to disclose players' payments, this is between 2016 and 2019, Saracens won 2 Premiership titles and 2 European Champions Cups. The overbearing point here is that you do not make money out of owning a rugby club. The only reason why you would ever really want to get involved in this is because you're passionate about rugby and you want to win things. And the salary cap being the way that it is means that realistically you have to be quite creative if you want to get some top talent in there and win things. And that, for me, is not a problem. I don't think that's a problem. It was that classic Donald Trump line when Hillary Clinton was talking about, and Donald, he doesn't pay any of his taxes, he doesn't do this. And he goes, yeah, because you let me. And that's it. He's found a way round this. He is an intelligent, creative businessman, in my opinion, who has done his best for rugby and wants to do his best by the players who have got a career after rugby.
I suppose it's not even necessarily a way round, is it? It's more of maximising the advantages that are given. Yeah. Well, look, it is something we're going to ask Martin Johnson about. We've had two people's take on this so far in the show. Both have said a similar thing, in fairness. He might
have a different view.
And he might have a different view. And, like, if anything, look, we're keen to hear everyone's view. So let us know. 0208 70 20 558. There's some big games going on this evening. Of course, we had a couple of games last night in the Champions League. Tonight, Man City are away at Atalanta. Of course, Spurs have got a big one. They're playing Red Star Belgrade, which is it's a tricky game. Of course, it's a tricky game. It's away at Red Star Belgrade, especially where Spurs stand in the league at the moment, the Champions League. They are second. Bayern Munich have pretty much won the league. They've won all 3 games, 9 points. Tottenham second on 4 points. Of course, Red Star on 3 points. Spurs absolutely need a result tonight, don't they?
Yeah, they definitely do. Spurs currently second in that table, and they're on 4 points. Bayern Munich running away with it, they're on 9, and Red Star, who actually are now known as Crvena Zvezda, which actually is how I sound after I've had a drink.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It would be very hard to tell that. Like, okay, sir, just pull the car over, get out, put your hands behind your head. Now say Red Star Belgrade's new name. Crvena Zvezda. Right, you're batter. Get in the van. Get in the van. You're doing hard time.
Where have you been tonight, sir? Oh, well, I've been at a game. Who have you been watching?
Oh, he's off his nuts.
Oh, what the?
Oh.
Well, they need a result. They do need a result. Son is in the squad. He's had his red card rescinded, of course. It'd be interesting to see how he is, and I'm sure he'll start the game, you would think. So it'd be interesting to see how he is, because he did look visibly so distraught the other day. You mentioned that you saw him train. He didn't look too bad in training.
Well, it looks all right. I mean, yeah, but again, on the same token, it's not like he's going to be there walking around with a comforter and like a teddy bear and crying his eyes out, is it? So, yeah, he looked fine. He looks absolutely fine.
It's quite rare that players are, holding a teddy bear during training. It happens. Don't get me wrong.
You had a lucky stone, mate.
Okay, why bring this up again?
Well, I'm just saying that's
weird. It just feels like any opportunity to bring this up. I don't bring up your things.
Like?
We're not going there.
Oh.
Yeah. Tottenham, big game for them. City, on the other hand, of course, they are in control of their group. Not so big, but you feel like it'd be nice for them to get a result. They're 5 points clear in their group. Atalanta, 0 points after 3 games, although going along quite nicely in Serie A. So it's not going to be an easy game going to Atalanta, but you would fancy City to get something from this?
Oh, definitely. I think Atalanta are going through that phase that a lot of clubs who are relatively new to top-level European competition, which is that there's a slight inferiority complex there. City had it, debatably still have it, despite the fact that they are probably the best team in the world, maybe. Them or Liverpool. But, yeah, City have that inferiority, whereas when Liverpool would turn up with a team that arguably shouldn't have won the Champions League, because they'd had such a proud European pedigree, they would go and win games. And City clearly are turning that around now, but Atalanta are still suffering from that slightly. And they're not playing at their home ground because their home ground's undergoing renovation. So they're essentially playing every game away. They haven't got enough of a fan base to fill the San Siro. So, yes, it's essentially not a home game for them. And they're going up against City, and I reckon City will spank them.
City did last time, of course, winning 5-1 at the Etihad. Some stats for you. City have won 10 of the last 12 Champions League games, winning 10, drawing 1, losing 1. Of course, that defeat meant that they didn't make it through to the final last year, so a little bit gutting on that front. But they're looking good. I mean, Raheem Sterling involved in 13 goals last 10 games, 9 goals, 4 assists. The guy is on fire.
I wonder if his head's going to be turned a little bit by what's going on with Real Madrid. Apparently, they're offering 70 mil plus Gareth Bale.
That's been dismissed by a few people, but those are the rumours, which... I mean, look, he's on fire. I mean, I touched on the fact yesterday, and this was obviously from a Man United fan. You would love to see Raheem Sterling move to Real Madrid for obvious reasons.
And drive him to the airport.
I actually do think, from Raheem Sterling's point of view, at what point do you decide to make the leap from City? Or do you become like a Messi, one-club man almost? I know it's not one club, of course, he was Liverpool, but you know what I mean? Do you actually just decide to then dedicate your next 5-10 years to one club and make yourself a living legend at that club? Or do you be the type, like a Ronaldo, and go and do it in several different leagues? Of course, he's going to have a lot of suitors. Another game I want to touch on, Man United. They are playing Partizan tomorrow night. How do you see that one going?
Probably a drab 1-0 either way.
Which is United right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, it'll be either side could win that. You'd expect Manchester United to do the business, but I mean, you never know. But one thing that United are very good at this year is winning penalties. They're also quite good at missing them. But I think that, maybe a 1 or 2-0 to United, I reckon.
Well, no doubt. We'll go into more depth on that game tomorrow. Right, we're going to be speaking to James Richard very shortly. An interesting story involving the EFL, involving Bury too. We're then going to be speaking to Martin Johnson at 9:30. So do stay with us.
This is Love Sport.
Hi, my name's Bob. I'm a retired civil servant from Durham. I used the advice that a spokesman said gave me to haggle with Sky to reduce my monthly payments from £86 per month to £43 per month, which was a saving of £774 over the 18-month contract. A nice little result, if I say so myself, but it was only due to a spokesman said on his brilliant advice that I was able to do a deal for the new contract.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus to stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
Love Sport.
Lots for breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. Now, of course, there was plenty of action, several games in the EFL last night, which we're going to talk about now. And there's an interesting story involving Bury as well. Delighted to say we've got James Richard, D3, D4 football on the line. Morning, James. Oh, see if we can get James on the line. Morning, James.
Hi, guys.
There we go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Got to start with the games last night. I want to talk about this Bury story. We've got to start with the games last night. First and foremost, Sol Campbell, of course, taken over at Southend. They're having a torrid time this season, seemingly beaten heavily every week, and it was no change last night, losing to Portsmouth 4-1. What do you make of Southend so far this season? Has he got any chance of turning it around there?
It's a massive job, to be honest. I didn't think much of their recruitment in the summer. They just squeezed home at the end of last season, beating Sunderland on the final day. And then, there was all this talk about them rebuilding and having a positive recruitment drive in the summer, but it didn't materialise. Kevin Bond wasn't able to build a squad. He didn't settle on any sort of single tactical system throughout the first few games of the season. And Sol Campbell's got a massive job in his hands, and it's very difficult because he started with three very tricky games. He's had Ipswich, Sunderland, and Portsmouth, three of the biggest sides in League One, to get him started. I think anyone would struggle to get Southend to play and beat those sides, but it's a worry because they concede goals left, right, and centre. I think they've conceded 48 goals so far this season, something ridiculous like that, and we were looking at projections of what they're on course to concede if they carry on at that rate, and it's something like 126 across the course of the campaign. So it's going to be a massive job, and if he can get the defence sorted out, they might have a platform to build on. But until they do that, they're not going to get anywhere. Yeah, they're already 8 points off safety, and you're right. It's funny how Southend have sunk in the way that they have. It was a much better night, and just one other game I want to touch on. Much better night for Ipswich, who not only won their game away at Rochdale, but of course Peterborough losing to Shrewsbury means that they're now top. They're now 5 points clear of Peterborough, who are in third, 2 games in hand. So they're looking certainly on course for a return to the Championship as it stands. And these are the kind of games away at Rochdale, Spotland, not where you necessarily want to be going on a Tuesday night, but a big win for Ipswich. Yeah, I watched the game actually, and it was a poor first half from them. Ipswich didn't get into any sort of rhythm whatsoever, and Rochdale were the better team both in possession and in terms of the chances they created. Luke Matheson is a wonderful talent, this right back that's reportedly been looked at by both Manchester United and Man City. But Ipswich dealt well, I think, in the second half with the threats that Rochdale posed, and they were much more composed on the ball, created a few more openings, got the goal that they needed. And it's one of those things, like you say, you go away on a Tuesday night to a place like Rochdale, you'll take 1-0 all day long. They've got a very good defensive record this season, and I think a couple of weeks ago they had back-to-back defeats. They've turned that around and bounced back from that. So very impressed with the squad. And I think you look at the players, they've got goals in them, they've got creativity. I mean, Flynn Downs wasn't playing yesterday, and he's a very big player in their midfield. I think Ipswich are going to have a very good season. And 906 fans made that journey north, and I think it's 226 miles, so fair play to them.
Absolutely. OK, I'm just moving on now. The English Football League has been asked to apologise to supporters and staff of Bury, and told it has to, quote, share the blame for the club's demise. The Digital Culture, Media and Sport Committee heard evidence from the EFL Executive Chair, Debbie Jevons, Football Association Chairman Greg Clark, and Premier League's Interim Chief Executive Richard Masters last month about how the club was expelled from the Football League. So can you go into a bit more detail on this, really? I mean, what the EFL just needs to say, sorry for not bailing you out, is that right?
I think it's a bit more complicated than that. I think what happened to Bury was a complete tragedy, and it's come about from multiple facets across a number of years. You've seen a lot of failings in the way that clubs financially regulate themselves. I think you see a lot of problems with the way that EFL and the powers that EFL have to go into clubs when they're not being run properly and make any practical changes. They can't do anything really. It's like in business law, you can't go into businesses that you don't own and make them do changes. So I think that structure and the way that clubs are run and the way that they're looked after, that needs to completely change going forward, because otherwise you're not going to see any changes. And I don't think you can just blame the EFL. I think there's loads of people who had a hand in the demise of Bury, not least the owners who were there in terms of Stuart Day and the recent owner, Steve Dale. I mean, Steve Dale, I think, is still in charge of the club technically. So it's hard to see anyone wanting to do business with the current Bury FC until that changes. But yeah, I think the EFL they must hold their hands up and take some responsibility. It's no use everyone washing their hands of the Bury situation and trying to simply pass it off to someone else, because there were multiple failings on multiple fronts. And I think going forward, we're going to see a lot of other clubs in similar situations unless changes are made.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask, really, which is that if one of the major contributing factors to this is a poor quality of owner, then what is the Football League doing to stop that happening again?
Well, I mean, supposedly the fit and proper person test is one of those safety nets, but it's been proven to be, certainly in this case, completely ineffectual. I think clubs need to be protected under the law as a community asset, and therefore you have that power. If an owner goes in and starts running it in an irresponsible manner, you can actually affect change by taking over that running of the club legally. And I think that's the only thing that's going to ever help clubs in these situations, because we've seen bad owners at Leyton Orient a few years ago. You've got Macclesfield in problems at the moment. You obviously have Bury this season. Bolton have problems. There's a whole list of clubs that aren't being run responsibly. And the only way you're going to be able to practically change that is by having powers to go into these clubs and remove the owners from them legally. Until that happens, you can't really see. I mean, what can the EFL practically do? Because they don't own the club, they don't have any legal recourse, and they don't have I don't think they have the financial structure to take legal action. Because, all these things cost a lot of money.
Just going back to the football in League One, just two more teams I want to touch on. Wycombe, I mean, above all expectations, Gareth Ainsworth doing an incredible job. I want to ask whether they can continue their run. And also Bolton, who've had 2 wins in a row, of course, good win against Fleetwood. They're still on -2 points. They're a long way off safety. Have they got any chance of being safe this season?
Well, I think they'll overtake Saturday if things carry on the way they are. I don't think they'll stay. I think that would be an absolute miracle if they do. But I'm not surprised they're winning. I think Keith Hill is a fantastic manager. He's the perfect man to sort of get something out of those players. And I think as well, you've got to give them time to gel. They came in all on the deadline day.
I'll tell you what, James, we're just losing you a bit on the line. It's just a bit in and out, so we'll leave that. Appreciate you coming on. James Richards there, D3, D4 football. Unfortunately, a bit of an iffy line there towards the end.
Southend, to me, strikes me as a club that is prime for a takeover. Like a big investment takeover. It's near London. There's a lot of money in Southend. There's a lot of money in Southend. We don't know where all of it's come from. but there's a lot of money there. That, to me, seems like it could be, some billionaire out there could be looking at it going, I fancy a bit of that.
Do you know what? It is interesting. So you look at the kind of clubs that people would invest in. Funnily enough, I actually met yesterday. I went for a coffee with the Leyton Orient manager, Carl Fletcher,
How's
which
he
was
getting on?
interesting. Doing very well, and he's got lots of ideas for Leyton Orient. Exciting times for Leyton Orient, indeed. He was previously manager of Plymouth, though, which was interesting because we were talking about that quite a lot, and he was quite open in saying that it was difficult because, of course, if you're the manager of Plymouth, then to actually attract players to Plymouth can be quite difficult, especially players from London, for instance, or players from major cities. So then, and also you've got the issue of every away game is a 4-hour trip minimum, sometimes 8-9 hours if you're going up north. So from a player's point of view, lifestyle's that little bit different. Whereas London clubs, Southend not being too far from London, and
Southend's fine.
So you kind of feel, I agree, it's, I talk about Charlton a lot. I can't believe someone hasn't come in yet, especially the way they're doing this season, and bought them.
The amount of Essex girls there in Southend, I'm surprised that players aren't kicking the door down. I'll come and play for Southend, absolutely.
There you go. If there's a reason to buy a football club, it is that. I've had a couple of messages in, as always. Thanks for your messages. Hamza's actually asked us here, I think it's the first time in a while that Real Madrid and Barcelona aren't favourites for the Champions League. What do you guys think? We'll touch on that. Clive's been in touch as well, saying must be time for a coffee. We've had our coffee.
We've had our coffee, Clive. Don't
flying,
worry,
Clive. Don't
nice
you worry about
that. Nice to see
that.
he looks out for us, though,
He
isn't
does.
it?
No, it's good. He's got our well-being at heart. It is appreciated. You're right, Real Madrid, Barcelona, they're not favourites for the Champions League. I'd argue they weren't last season, or were they last season?
No, I don't think so. But I think it's a question of kind of natural fluctuation, isn't it? I don't think we're in any doubt that Barcelona and Real Madrid are going to be challenging for it in a serious way very soon, probably in the next couple of years. But yeah, they're not at the races at the minute. But I like that. I like the fact that people mix it up a little bit.
Well, I love the fact that in La Liga at the moment, was it 1 point separates the top 5? That's kind of what you want to an extent.
Well, we wanted that for so long because that was the criticism of La Liga for a good number of years when Barcelona were winning everything, and if they weren't, then Real Madrid were. That it was a bit of a closed shop. Whereas now it isn't, and that's got to be better.
Indeed. Patrick, are you throwing away your hard-earned money on expensive energy bills?
How did you know?
Keep the price down when you turn the heating up. You could be saving hundreds by switching to a cheaper deal. A spokesmansaid.com compares all the best deals on the market to find you the one that saves you the most cash. Find the cheapest energy tariffs for you. Go to a spokesmansaid.com and start saving today.
Thank you.
This is Love Sport.
This is Love Sport indeed. We're going to be talking very shortly to Martin Johnson, of course, CBE. We're going to be talking to him about a few things. We're going to be talking to him actually about British men and confidence. We're also going to be talking to him, of course, about Saracens. It's going to be interesting to get his take on the Saracens situation. We've spoke to a couple of people today, and seemingly everybody is on a similar wavelength in regards to this. But, of course, he may well have a very different perspective, having played the game.
Yeah, well, look, absolutely. I'm very keen to get his view on it. But also, something that I've been dying to ask him ever since I saw an interview with James Haskell, in which James Haskell described Martin Johnson as the hardest man he'd ever met, said that he used to just live to essentially knock people out in training. And in the age of MMA, so James Haskell's going into MMA, he's fighting, another equally large human being, but also in the age of, YouTube stars, boxing, Conor McGregor fighting Floyd Mayweather, these kind of freak shows. I really want to ask Martin Johnson if he thinks he'd beat a rhino.
Fantastic. We're going to ask that question shortly.
Love Sport.
Hello, I'm Tim from Bolsover. I'm a retired teacher. I was looking for a better electricity deal for my parents when I got an email from a spokesman said it was a fixed deal for 2 years, which was better for my parents, less for them to worry about. And when I had to look at the sums, I had to recheck because I couldn't quite believe it. They were going to save over £900 each year they were on that deal. Needless to say, we signed up pretty quickly.
With a spokesmansaid.com, fighting for you, saving you money.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realize that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search One You.
This is Love Sport.
That's for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We're here with you all the way until 10 a.m. Of course, Martin Bell, the brilliant Martin Bell, is up after us. We are back tomorrow at 6:30, as we are every morning, Monday to Friday. You can join us 6:30 until 10. Right, we spoke a lot of rugby this morning, and we're going to continue our rugby conversation. We're also going to talk a little bit about confidence. There's some interesting stats we've been given here that we're going to be asking Martin Johnson, of course, Martin Johnson, CBE, who will be on the line shortly. We'll be asking him about confidence.
Yeah, so this is something that 7 in 10 British men wish they felt more confident. Martin Johnson, of course, former England Rugby Union captain, I would imagine probably doesn't struggle with confidence, although we'll find out when we speak to him. But it's quite interesting this, that 73% of British men wish they were more confident. 51% of men struggle with confidence in social situations. 2 in 5 also struggle with confidence in professional situations. Now, I think we do live in an age, don't we, of anxiety and depression, and some of that, in my opinion, is clearly very, very genuine, and it's very good that we talk about it. Some of it, for me, needs to give the head a wobble. However, have you ever struggled with confidence, Rich?
In terms of football, yes. Actually, it was one of the reasons I went down the route of studying psychology, studying neurolinguistic programming, understanding how you can process thoughts in order to feel certain emotions.
But really, you could have just looked in the mirror.
Thank you.
Yeah, you could have just looked in the mirror. You know, that's it, isn't it? Do you think, I think personally, that confidence is linked to looks quite extensively.
Really?
I massively think so.
Right, so this is from my understanding and from what I learned.
Ugly people are less confident.
Wow, that's quite a sweeping statement.
Massively, though.
No, I just think it's the way in which you process thoughts. Again, we're going to be speaking to Martin Johnson about this shortly. For me, it's the way you process thoughts. So understanding that thoughts you have release certain chemicals into the body, and understanding that your thoughts aren't real, your thoughts are your thoughts, being able to start to dictate those to an extent and guide those to an extent, you would feel would make a real positive difference. So I look, from a personal level, where I lack confidence when I played, when I was younger, played football, and going into certain games, I would lack confidence. A great example, actually, one of the biggest games I played, FA Cup semi-final, and hadn't trained properly for a month or so, hadn't played any games in 6 weeks, and suddenly I'm going out against Rooney, Ronaldo, etc. I was lacking confidence going into that game, and that took a lot of mental work over the 3-4 days prior to the game in order to get myself into a state of mind where I could be excited about going out and not feel fearful for the game. So it's a slightly different confidence, I appreciate, because a lot of this is self-esteem that we're going to be talking about. Another interesting one, 84% of men aged 18 to 34 wishing they were more confident. I'll tell you what it is for me, is that I think confidence largely is an internal creation, whereas a lot of people feel that external things need to happen.
But you know what annoys me, right, is that the beard has really come into fashion, right, which allows people to completely change the way that they look. So what I start doing now at parties is I'll walk up to someone with a big beard and I'll stick my finger in it and press it up to their chin and go, oh, you'd have a completely different face, wouldn't you? Because you would. You weren't born looking like Thor, crossed with some kind of hipster Viking that writes a blog on a typewriter in an independent coffee house in Shoreditch. Gosh, that's good to get that out there.
Is this just because you can't grow a beard?
Yes! But this is my point, which is that I think a lot of people now hit the gym and they get a nice beard and they get a bit of a tan, and then people think that means that they're very, very confident, but actually they're deeply insecure.
Oh, there you go. That's Patrick Christys' thoughts on this matter. We're going to get Martin Johnson's thoughts, who I believe is on the line right now. Morning, Martin.
Morning, guys. You all right?
Morning. Yeah, good. Hope you're well. We're just talking now. I know you've got some message in regards to confidence. Reading out some of the stats that we're given. 73% of British men wish they were more confident. 84% between the ages of 18 and 34. Is that correct?
Yeah. Look, Untuckit have done that. They were a clothes brand coming out of the US, opening stores in the UK, doing some great clothing just to give people a little bit of confidence. And I think some of it is linked to how you look as well, isn't it? And particularly nowadays, everything's about looking good. And I think there is something about that. I was just hearing what you guys were saying about confidence. And look, I think the thing to realise for anyone is everyone, I think, at some point is not fully confident, and some people fake it better than others. So it's almost good to assume that everyone feels a bit like that. And it's not a bad thing sometimes to be a little bit nervous. You just, accept that that's part of it, and everyone's feeling a little bit the same. I think it's not just you. And some of it is linked to style. If you can, even when you were playing, sometimes I don't know what you guys see. If you look good and the kit looked good, that was always a good first step.
Do you know what? When I played in goal, that was actually a good point. There was once where I was really struggling, wasn't training particularly well, games weren't going particularly well, and there was something in that where it was actually, you go out there, slightly tighter kit, different boots, etc., and almost having like a bit of a restart. And it's something I wanted to ask you. Of course, you played in some of the biggest games going in front of millions and millions of people. Have you ever had that where you've gone into a game where maybe you're lacking a bit of form, you're not feeling physically as well as you would want to feel going into a massive game, where you have had those self-doubts creep in?
Of course, it's totally human nature, and I think we've just had a World Cup, the biggest game in our sport of all, and I was fortunate to play in that game with a very, very good team, and I had great belief, and I took confidence in the people I was with, because there is moments, whoever you are, where you think, those doubts creep in, little thoughts, your brain can play tricks on you, thoughts jump in. And I remember I used to look round and take confidence from the guys I was playing with. Hopefully they'd do the same for me. But you have to understand, I've just been to the tournament and you see all the old guys I used to play against, and we end up having little chats, and everyone's the same, whether they play for the All Blacks or the Springboks or Australia or England or whoever. They all have self-doubts, and we're all human beings. We all have that fragility, whatever we like to think and build people up to be superheroes. So I'm sitting here with my Untuck It shirt on. I'm feeling great because I'm a weird shape. I'm quite tall. I've got a long body, and this shirt's fitting spot on. So it's making me feel pretty good first thing.
Yeah, well, look, absolutely. But I just before, because I do want to move on just briefly, really, have a little bit of a chat with you and pick your brains a bit about what you reckon has been going on with Saracens. But just in terms of confidence, I'm sat opposite a guy here, Richard Lee, who looks a little bit like the statue of David, but not the worst bit of that. Do you know what I mean? And then I've got a couple of mates who are kind of your height, not built like you, Martin, but your height. And there seems to be something, I think, around physicality and confidence. I understand that what you wear has a lot to do with that as well. Don't get me wrong, but did you ever naturally feel a bit confident in the fact that I imagine that you rarely walked into a room and ever felt physically threatened?
Yeah, but it's also when you talk, you can also feel a bit self-conscious because you are tall. I see tall teenagers stooping around, with their shoulders dropped and their terrible posture. And I say, guys, stand up. You're tall. A lot of people would love to be in your position. So it's almost like whatever you've got, you can feel self-conscious about it, can't you? And look, I played on that point. I played with some guys who physically didn't look anything. They didn't have great body shape. They didn't have great muscularity. They didn't look like superstars, but they played like them. And vice versa. I played with guys who you look at them and think, wow, you're pretty special looking, but they didn't have what it took to be a good player. So a lot of those things are literally skin deep. And I think just being comfortable with what you are, who you are. Yes, we all want to be healthy and look after ourselves, but I don't think we really need to totally judge everyone on what they look like, because it's not your fault. You get what you're given genetically, and some people have been very, very lucky, and some people not so. But
well, I keep being given, Martin, is Big Mac, so that unfortunately is my fault. But no, just on the Saracens issue, clearly it's rocked rugby in this country now. 35 point deduction. 5.3 million quid fine. Just look, what's your take on this? Do you think it's just? Do you think it might be a bit harsh?
Well, the salary cap's been in for 20 years. There's been rumours for 20 years about people doing things and accusations or whatever. Saracens, in their credit, have got a heck of a team. They've developed a lot of those guys themselves. Spine of the England team, let's not forget that, is from Saracens. The England team, when it's been at its best, has often had a good core of one team who are used to winning, and that's Saracens right now. So they're claiming they didn't do it knowingly. All the rest of it, I haven't seen the detail. They'll have to sort that out amongst themselves. That's a self-imposed thing amongst the Premiership. They self-impose that rule. £5.3 million is a pretty tasty fine. That's a lot of money. We're talking rugby. We're not talking football. 35 points. I mean, they're bottom of the league if that's upheld. So. It's as I said, it's a self-imposed thing amongst them in the Premiership.
Are England players in a little bit, and therefore English clubs, I suppose, in a little bit of a tight spot here? Because you're not going to get picked for England if you go and earn a fortune playing in France, right? So you kind of have to play in this country. But then there is a salary cap in this country, and all right, they are very well paid comparatively speaking to your average bloke on the street, I suppose. But like. There's got to be, you've got to allow them to, it's business at the end of the day. I know it's sport, but there is a business element to this, isn't there? And it seems, I'm worried now that the likes of a Nigel Ray, who's worth 350 million quid, just won't bother investing in rugby anymore because of this.
Yeah, well, that's probably something they've got to sort out, in the Premiership. As I say, it's self-imposed. It's not imposed on them by the RFU or the governing body or anyone else. A salary cap it has to be self-imposed by the sport and agreed to. So if they've agreed to it and someone's breaking it, then it's up to them how they punish someone. What if there's any retrospective action, I don't know. But look, yeah, as I said, there's been rumours not just about them, as long as there's been a salary cap and people are competitive. These guys who invest the money, and Nigel's been in the game right from the start. And I know Nigel a little bit. I see him around. Very, very passionate about his sport. And as I say, Saracens, they were a team 15 years ago who spent a lot of money and didn't get a lot of reward for it in terms of buying star names. They now seem, they've produced a lot of good players who've come through their system who have just taken England to a World Cup final. So you can see both sides of it.
Yeah, you can. Great stuff, Martin. Well, look, just to touch on the campaign that you're running with, of course, in regards to Untuck It. So despite media attention, increasing awareness, most men still suffer with low confidence, according to new research commissioned by Untuck It. The research also shows that clothing plays a big part in men's confidence. 84% of men aged 18 to 34 wishing they were more confident. Martin, thank you for spreading the message this morning and have a great day.
You too, guys. Take care.
Great stuff. Martin Johnson there, CBE, ex-England rugby legend.
I didn't get to ask him the question about the rhino.
No, you didn't.
I know.
You didn't.
I know.
You got the listeners excited as well.
I know. He's on a tight time frame, really, and that was going to be my next question about whether or not he'd fight a rhino and win. But, I mean, now I've said it out loud a few times. I think he's probably good at that. I didn't.
Yeah, indeed. Well, an interesting bit as well about confidence, just to touch on that just one more time, because it's actually and he made some great points and actually touched on clothing. Do you know what I think it is? And I remember I went to a seminar once, and this is the way that it was described to me, is that confidence, if you imagine confidence being a tabletop, and the more affirmations you get, the more comments you get that kind of back up a certain belief, that tabletop builds more and more legs. So the idea being that if you want to feel attractive, if you want to feel intelligent, then it'll be the more words of confidence from others that might build that before it becomes a belief, before it becomes a conviction. I think that's actually, for me, that always worked quite well.
Yeah, well, I had a similar experience, actually. I went to a conference, I don't know if it was the same one. I went there and we sat down, and what they did was they just put a piece of broccoli on a table in front of us, and we all had to imagine that broccoli was our worst enemy. And so we'd scream at it and we'd let everything off our chest. Then we just did loads of LSD.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to be talking more football, a little bit more rugby next.
I'm joking.
I hope you are.
I'm joking. I'm taking the mick out of these new age conferences. They are ridiculous.
There's me trying to impart knowledge.
Didn't you once turn up to a conference? Didn't you once turn up to a conference on the environment driving a BMW?
Yeah, I did. I did. It was, it was frowned upon when I rocked up, and there was like 70 Priuses in the car park, and then there was my gas guzzler. Yeah, that didn't go down so well. 17 minutes to 10.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio.
Hi, I'm Marilyn from Oxfordshire. My current insurance company quoted £245.08 to reinsure, and a spokesman said, obtain me a price of £173.49 for the same cover. This was a fantastic saving for me. And next time my car insurance comes up for renewal, I will be going through a spokesman said. No doubt about that.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work that way. Even a quick look at a message or firing off a quick reply affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident. And save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it, you just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F. Face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys, Martin Bell up next in about 15 minutes' time. Brilliant show. Do stay tuned in for that. One of the bits of breaking news this morning, two-time Olympic champion Nicola Adams has retired from boxing over fear she could lose her sight. The Briton, 37, became the first female Olympic champion when she won gold at London 2012, retaining her flyweight title at Rio in 2016. Of course, she turned professional in 2017 and the WBO World Flyweight Champion. I've been advised that any further impact to my eye would most likely lead to irreparable damage and permanent vision loss, said Adams. So she has retired today, but a fantastic career.
Look, absolutely. Rio was a pin-up athlete, really, of multiple Olympic Games. A fantastic ambassador for the sport. Obviously, has done a lot for the LGBTQ plus community as well, it's fair to say. And we wish her all the best. And I think as well, boxing is one of those sports, and I think this was the issue with Nigel Benn, wasn't it, really, where we kind of want to see you fight again, but we don't want to see you get really badly hurt. And I hope that with Nicola Adams, she's got out before the damage has been irreparably done, if that makes sense. Yeah. There's no point continuing, is there, if you're going to end up, in a really bad way. So, fair play to her.
Indeed. Obviously, we touched a lot on the rugby this morning, so Saracens being the big story on the back pages. Of course, they've been, as it stands, fined over £5 million, deducted 35 points. I want to touch on the Champions League games from last night, but more so Liverpool's fixtures that they've got upcoming. So, of course, they've got the game against Man City at the weekend. They've then got the international break. But in December, so from December 4th all the way through to January 6th, they may well have 11 games in just over 30 days.
Yes.
So, effectively a game every 3 days, including 2 games in a day, effectively. So December 17th, December 18th, they're due to play 2 fixtures. Villa away in the Carabao Cup, and then the Club World Cup semi-final in Qatar on the 18th of December, potentially the World Cup Club Cup final or 3rd, 4th place playoff on the 21st, which of course in Qatar as well. I wonder, you look at Liverpool, they've got a fantastic chance of winning the league this season. This, for me, if they can get through this unscathed, then they should go on and claim the league, I feel. However, I look at that and I can't help but feel, can any team get through that list of fixtures unscathed?
Well, I suppose if anyone can, it's Liverpool, isn't it? Liverpool or City. Look, I think this is it, though, isn't it? It's difficult to be a top club. And if you are going to be one, then you have to come through fixture backlogs like this. That's the way it is, isn't it? That's why you earn the big bucks to go and do it.
But to go to Qatar and fly back, I mean, I'm supposed to take that into account. And by the way, the majority of these games are Premier League games, has to be said. So Everton, Bournemouth, obviously Premier League games. There's Salzburg in the Champions League. From their point of view, I'm assuming, providing they're already qualified, then maybe they can rest players there. Watford, of course, in the Premier League. They've then got Villa in the Carabao Cup, which they're going to play the kids. They've got to, which for a Carabao Cup's quarter-final is a bit of a shame for the competition, you'd feel. How seriously they take the Club World Cup will be interesting. I'm assuming they'll put out a first team for the semi-final final.
Well, this is what I'm wondering, right? Because if I was Jurgen Klopp, the real issue here is that the Club World Cup is being staged in Qatar.
Yeah.
That's the problem, actually. If it was, I mean, okay, right, the fixtures are pretty close together, but even if it was in Germany or Spain or somewhere, it's not as much of an issue, but they're being made to go to Qatar. So do you stick two fingers up to that and go, I can't believe that in a chock-a-block season where we're competing for everything, you've made us fly to essentially a human rights black spot to go and play a football match. Actually, we're going to put the kids out there.
Yeah. Like, do you know what? It's not a bad shout. Because you actually look at the fixtures, and bearing in mind, they then come back from Qatar on their game's on the 21st. So they'll return on the 22nd of December, just before Christmas. On Boxing Day, they got Leicester away. So Leicester away is going to be one of the toughest fixtures of the season.
Yeah.
And they've just come back from Qatar a few days before, and they've got the whole Christmas schedule. They've then, of course, got a game on the 29th, Wolves at home. Then on the 2nd, Sheffield United at home. Then they've got the FA Cup soon after. I just wonder, they've got 11 games where they almost have like a Premier League team, which will be their first team. They have the Carabao Cup / FA Cup team, where you can play those two games. And then, as you say, whether they actually take the Club World Cup that seriously, does it mean that much?
Who was it that won the Club World Cup 2 years ago? Exactly. No one cares. But you can remember who won the Premier League, remember who won the Champions League. I personally, if I was Jurgen Klopp, I'd just sack it off. I don't see what the point is in this anyway. I mean, who's going to be there as well? It's Qatar. It's 4,000 miles away. No one wants to be there. Even people in Qatar don't really want to be there. Yeah. So I don't see the point of this, and I think it's ridiculous that they're being made to go and do that.
And this is it. And I guess then... Yeah, well, it would be really interesting. He's already made comments, of course, that, well, it is insane to have 2 games in 2 days. And they're not going to move the fixture, which you'd have thought they might have done. But I guess that's it as well. Where do you move it? Villa away in the Carabao Cup quarter-final. You're looking at the there's no date that they can possibly have that game that works, unless they were to move it into January. But then you're talking semi-final territory anyway. So there's just no date they can move that game to.
Yeah, no, look, that's it. But this is only going to keep happening. There is, I said it at the start, and I don't like saying this, especially on a station like Love Sport Radio, but there is almost too much football now. And actually as well, by making a team like Liverpool go and do all this, you're just monopolising their audience as well. The Club World Cup in no way benefits anyone in the lower leagues, doesn't benefit football in general. So, yeah, to be honest with you, I'd send the kids out to Qatar.
Yeah.
And hopefully some of them will come back.
Fingers crossed. Obviously, it could then lead into January as well. Hopefully some. We'll take 50%. That's what we want. But it could then lead to January. Of course, FA Cup potential for replays, potential for a semi-final, etc., etc. So it's going to be a tough time for Liverpool as of December. Of course, they've got a massive game this weekend. It certainly helped them if they were to beat City and create a 9-point gap. It would give them a little bit of a buffer, at least. Of course, they were victorious last night in Genk, 2-1. Chelsea came back from 4-1 down to draw 4-4. The most incredible 7 seconds of sport that I've ever seen in my life. 2 sendings off and a penalty against Ajax in one movement. It was just... It was
brilliant.
It was fantastic.
It was like watching a game on fast forward.
Yeah.
But just for 7 seconds, you're like, what?
It's like, how many bad things can happen in one move? You can have 2 men sent off and give away a penalty, which ultimately gave Chelsea a chance to come back into the game. Almost won it, of course, goal disallowed for a handball by Tammy Abraham. But again, so many more positives for Chelsea to take. They are looking, certainly going forward. There's a bit of naivety defensively, I think it's fair to say. And I certainly saw that in the game against Watford at the weekend. But going forward, they're as exciting as anyone.
They are, 100%. I am a big fan of Frank Lampard and I am a big fan of Chelsea. I enjoy watching them play now. When Match of the Day comes on, I know what I'm getting from Liverpool and City. I unfortunately know what I'm getting from Manchester United at the minute. I like watching Chelsea play. I think they're doing very well. And, I like the application there. And gosh, some of those... Take your pick as to who the best young Chelsea youngster is. Reece James has got to be up there. He became their youngest ever scorer in the Champions League.
And he's one who's got a big future. I saw a lot of him last season in particular. He's at Wigan. Very, very good. I know that every Championship club wanted to loan him this season. A couple of low-end Premier League clubs as well. Certainly one to look out for. Another big story today. Granit Xhaka has been stripped of his Arsenal captaincy. Aubameyang is the new captain.
Yes. I think a lot of people wanted Hector Bellerin as the Arsenal captain. I made the point that he's a vegan. And I just wonder whether or not that's the best option to go for.
Which, the world is like gradually going vegan. You know that, right? Mm-hmm. I tell you what, give it 20 years. I reckon we're looking at, 50% of people vegan?
Yeah, was the world a better place 20 years ago, though? I think it probably was, wasn't it?
I mean, it was a different place.
Yeah. No, there's no correlation, by the way. No correlation whatsoever. But no, I mean, look, there's nothing in that. I'm just saying that obviously he did get quite a bad knee injury shortly after becoming a vegan, yada, yada, yada,
We can link the two. Why not?
We could link the two. Jack Wilshere, vegan, crocked.
There you go.
Just saying.
There you go. I think you've made your point.
Yeah.
Like, closed.
No, there's no evidence to back up anything that I've just
No,
said there. I've
nothing
just got a
factual.
feeling. No, look, I think Aubameyang is their best player, probably.
Well, so this is it. There's always a question. Goalkeepers and forwards, do they make good captains, or should it be a central midfielder, a centre-back? That engine, should that be the captain?
In an ideal world, I think you have a box-to-box central midfielder as your captain. But if you haven't got that guy, you're not just going to give him the armband. And yeah, I think the captain is more of a ceremonial role than perhaps it even used to be. Yeah. The question is do they set the example for the club? And again with that, Aubameyang drives, I believe I'm right in saying, it's like a kind of shiny pearl-coloured Lamborghini. And I just wonder, is that what you want from your club captain?
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think that matters?
Trade it in, get a Volvo.
I just think, well, you've already given Solskjaer enough stick for his Volvo.
No, but he's the manager. He needs to have the best car.
Right.
The players need to have a level of discipline about them. Paul Scholes drove a Chevy. Just saying.
So, wouldn't you want, though, your captain just to be, it doesn't really matter if they're a bit flash, which he seems to be. You just want him to be the best player, right? If they're the best player,
Right.
at least then you can't necessarily, they can lead by example.
No, at the end of the day, managers live and die, as do football clubs, on just simply the results on the football pitch. So if your best player is your captain, there's every chance that you're going to do all right. It'd be interesting to see, again, Arsenal fans, get in touch, 0208 70 25 58. Realistically, though, it looks like Xhaka's off in January. Where do you reckon he might go? Because for me, the big standout thing for him is this. He's been sent off a couple of times for silly, rash tackles. He's then got subbed off, thrown his shirt down, told the fans to F off, thrown the captain armband down, etc. I don't think he's got the right mentality for top-flight football.
No? Well, look, I think that what could end up happening... Look, he's got so many caps for Switzerland, captain of Switzerland, still only 27 years old. I think realistically he moves abroad. I don't think there's another club in the Premier League. You kind of try and match the player with the club. Is he going to be one that necessarily moves down? If he did, would the wages quite be there that he'd want? He's still got a great reputation in Europe. I'd argue that his reputation in the UK isn't brilliant at the moment. I know most Arsenal fans, in terms of performance, aren't massively keen on him. So... Look, I think he leaves in January. I think he goes into Europe. It just depends on what fee they can get for him. Another story, of course, is Son's red card was rescinded.
Yes, it was indeed. And the right decision, actually. He was essentially sent off because Gomez's ankle was, all over the shop. He, by the way, has responded extremely well to surgery and could potentially be back within even 6 months.
Is that what they're saying?
Yes.
Well, that's good news, and I think it was the right decision personally. I know lots of different opinions on this, and certainly we had Mark Housey, didn't we, on the line yesterday, and he was talking about Son's red card and basically saying that it always has to be. It's not like... I use drink driving as the example because drink driving, the crime or the punishment will fit whatever the consequences are, not necessarily what happened. So it can be a completely different sentence depending on what you do. That's not the case in football. In football, it's a booking or a sending off based on the actual tackle itself. What happens thereafter, what the length of the injury is, isn't related to the tackle itself.
Yeah, just talking of that, Wayne Rooney started training with Derby now. So he is about to become a player coach there in the new year. He was said to be in, quote, impressive shape.
Which means?
I mean, Rick Waller was in impressive shape, wasn't he? Andy Forden was in impressive shape.
Is this a note we're going to finish the show on, Patrick?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Works for me. We're back tomorrow, 6:30. As always, Mark, thank you. Patrick, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Stay tuned. There's a fantastic show with Martin Bell coming up next.
This is Love Sport.
Hello, my name's Paula. I'm from the Shropshire area and I'm a business development manager. I use a spokesman said for my car insurance where I've saved over £500 and also on travel insurance as well. So in total, me and my family have saved about £600. I would definitely use it again and I would definitely recommend it.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you'd do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics.
Morning all, Martin Bell here. Oh, I went a bit American there, just there, Martin. I rolled the T. Martin Bell. What's happened there? We've got an American guy here, by the way, who's working at Love Sport. Just told me about his YouTube account. It's got 42,000 subscribers. Didn't know it. Get involved in that. It's making money out of it. I might start doing that, actually. We was offered to do that, myself and Johnny Sperling, but we haven't had time. Right, listen, let's have...